Hello friends. Did you know nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy these stories, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps. Thank you for being here. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. I've been working on the Dalton Highway for 11 years. From Fairbanks to Dead Horse, from Dead Horse to Fairbanks. 414 miles with nothing frozen, most of it above the Arctic Circle. People ask me why I do it. I tell them the pay is good. That's only half true. The real reason is that around the third year, I stopped feeling comfortable around people, and the icy road doesn't ask questions. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 42 years old. After my divorce, I bought a 2015 Peterbilt 389 with a private sleeper cab, paid for in advance. The truck is blue. I don't know why I'm mentioning this. Maybe when you spend 16 hours a day inside something, the color starts to matter. There's a crack running from the GPS mount on the dashboard to the passenger side. I've watched that crack grow over 4 winters. Sometimes I think about fixing it, but I never do. This happened in February, not in early February, when the days are short, but in mid-February, when the sun barely rises above the horizon and then seems to give up and start setting again. I had picked up a load of drilling equipment in Fairbanks, heavy stuff, the kind that makes the trailer groan on hills even when the road is dry. But the road wasn't dry. A storm had passed through 2 days earlier and the highway crew was still busy clearing the snowdrifts. I left the truck stop at 4 in the morning. The woman at the counter, Rita, had been there every time I passed through for the last 6 years. She said to me, "Weather's supposed to hold," she said, not looking at me. That's what they always say. She nodded. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in that sickly yellow glow that makes even healthy people look like corpses. 2 other truckers sat in the corner booth, speaking quietly. I didn't recognize either of them. New guys, probably. They never lasted more than a season or 2. The ice road chews people up. I paid, left a tip I couldn't really afford, and walked back out into the cold. The temperature read -38 on the thermometer by the door. Felt colder. It always does when the wind picks up. I could see the Peterbilt waiting in the lot, exhaust pluming from the stack like dragon's breath. I'd left it idling. You never shut down in this cold unless you want to spend 3 hours with a Herman Nelson heater trying to coax your engine back to life. The driver's seat creaked when I climbed in. Everything creaks in this cold. Leather, plastic, metal, all of it contracts and moans. I pulled the door shut and felt that familiar sense of isolation settle over me. Just me and the road now. The way I liked it. I pulled out of the lot and headed north on the highway. The first 50 miles are almost normal. Regular highway, some traffic, occasional lights from buildings tucked back in the trees. Then you pass the Yukon River and everything changes. The trees thin out. The darkness gets thicker. The road becomes something else entirely. Mile marker 56 passed on my right. I'd seen it 1,000 times. The signs up here are simple. White numbers on green. The paint faded by wind and ice. Some of them have bullet holes. Board hunters probably, or drunks with rifles. I've never understood the appeal of shooting road signs, but then again, I've never understood most things people do. The heater was blowing hard, but the cab still felt cold. I reached over and adjusted the vent, directing it toward my feet. My boots were good. Baffin Titans, rated to -100. I'd paid $400 for them 3 years ago, and they were worth every penny. Frostbite doesn't care about your budget. Mile marker 60 slid past, then 65. The road was empty. I hadn't seen another vehicle since leaving Fairbanks. That wasn't unusual, especially this time of year, this time of day. The darkness pressed against the windows like something alive. My headlights carved out a tunnel of visibility, maybe 200 feet, no more. Beyond that, nothing. Just black. The radio crackled. I'd had it on low, tuned to the trucker's channel. Sometimes guys would call out road conditions, warn about moose on the highway, that sort of thing. Mostly, it was just static. The signal up here is spotty at best. Sometimes you can pick up a station out of Fairbanks, but it fades fast once you get north of the Yukon. Southbound at marker 89, black ice on the grades. The voice was distant, breaking up. I keyed the mic. Copy that. Northbound at 70. Conditions good so far. No response. I hadn't really expected one. I set the mic back in its cradle and focused on the road. The Dalton Highway isn't like other roads. It was built in the 70s to service the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, and that's still its primary purpose. It's not meant for civilians, though they allow it. It's a working road, a dangerous road. No cell service. No gas stations for 100 miles at a stretch. No guardrails on most of it. Just you and the permafrost and the certainty that if something goes wrong, you're probably going to die before help arrives. I'd seen 3 fatal accidents in my 11 years. 2 jackknifed trucks and 1 pickup that tried to pass on a blind curve and went head-on into a gravel hauler. I helped pull a body out of that one. The driver was a tourist from California, up here to see the northern lights. He saw something, all right, just not what he'd planned on. Mile marker 75 appeared in my headlights. The numbers glowed briefly, then vanished behind me. The road stretched ahead, endless and white. Snow had drifted across the surface in places, creating ripples that made the truck shudder. I kept my speed steady, 45 miles per hour. Fast enough to make progress, slow enough to maintain control. My coffee was cold. I took a sip anyway. The taste was bitter, burnt. Rita always made it too strong, but I'd never told her that. Some things you just accept. The miles clicked by. 80. 90. I settled into that mental state that comes with long-haul driving. A kind of meditation where your body handles the vehicle on autopilot and your mind drifts. Not sleeping, but not fully awake either. Hypnagogic, that's the word. I learned it from a magazine article once. The state between waking and sleeping. That's when I saw it. Mile marker 116. I blinked. Checked the GPS. According to the display, I'd just passed marker 94, but the sign in my headlights clearly read 116. White numbers on green, same style as all the others. I craned my neck to look in the mirror as it receded behind me, but the darkness swallowed it too quickly. I glanced at the GPS again, still showing 94. I looked back at the road. The next marker should be 95, coming up in about a mile. I counted the seconds, watching the odometer tick over. 0.8 miles, 0.9. 1 mile even. Mile marker 95 appeared on schedule. I exhaled. Must have misread the previous one. Easy to do when you're tired, when the numbers flash by in the dark. The human brain sees patterns, fills in blanks. I'd probably seen 96 or 91, and my exhausted neurons had assembled it wrong. I turned the radio up a little, looking for company, even if it was just static. The noise helped. Silence up here can be oppressive. It gets inside your head and echoes. Mile marker 100 passed. Then 105, 110, everything normal. The road curved gently to the east, following the terrain. Mountains rose on either side, black shapes against a slightly less black sky. No stars. Overcast, probably. Snow coming. I felt it before I saw it. That drop in atmospheric pressure that signals a storm moving in. My ears popped. The air inside the cab seemed to thicken. I checked the mirror out of habit. seeing nothing but my own red taillights reflecting off the ice fog that was starting to form. Then I saw the sign again. Mile marker 116. This time I was ready for it. I hit the brakes, slowing the truck. The sign slid past on my right. I stared at it. White numbers on green. 117. No question. I could see the bolt holes where it was attached to the post. I could see the paint chips where the weather had abraded the surface. I checked the GPS. Mile 112. I sat there for a moment, truck idling, my heart beating faster than it should. The logical part of my brain, the part that deals with manifests and load weights and fuel consumption, tried to make sense of it. Someone had put up the wrong sign. Highway department made a mistake. Simple explanation. Except I'd been running this road for 11 years. I knew every mile marker, every curve, every frost heave that could break your suspension if you hit it wrong. There was no marker 116 between Fairbanks and marker 115. I put the truck back in gear and continued north. My hands felt cold despite the heater. I flexed my fingers on the steering wheel, working blood back into them. Mile marker 115 appeared exactly where it should be. Then 120. 165. I kept checking the GPS obsessively now, matching it against every sign. Everything aligned perfectly. 15 miles later, I saw it again. Mile marker 116. Jesus Christ, I said aloud. My voice sounded strange in the cab, flat, absorbed by all the insulation. This time it was on the left side of the road, the wrong side. Mile markers are always on the right heading north. Always, it's a federal standard. But there it stood, clear as day in my headlights. 116. I stopped the truck completely this time, put it in neutral. Sat there staring at the sign. The wind had picked up. I could feel the truck rocking slightly. Snow was starting to fall. Small flakes that sparked in the headlight beams like insects. The radio crackled. Marker 116. I grabbed the mic so fast I nearly dropped it. Say again. This is northbound at marker 130. Please repeat your traffic. Static, then a voice, distant and distorted. Shouldn't be there. Turn back at marker 116. Who is this? What do you mean turn back? More static. Then nothing. The radio went dead. Not just quiet, dead. The display light flickered and went out. I twisted the volume knob. Nothing. I checked the power connection. Secure. I flipped the unit off and on again. The display didn't even light up. God damn it! I sat back in the seat. The snow was falling harder now. The windshield wipers made their rhythmic sweep back and forth, clearing and clearing and clearing a view of absolutely nothing. I looked at the mile marker again. 116. It hadn't moved, hadn't changed. Just stood there like it had every right to exist. I thought about turning around, going back to Fairbanks, calling in sick, saying the truck had mechanical issues, anything. But I'd never turned back from a run in 11 years. Never. That was a point of pride for me. Maybe the only point of pride I had left. Besides, I needed the money. The divorce had been expensive. The truck payment was due. Life doesn't stop just because you see something that shouldn't exist. I put the truck back in gear and drove on. The marker vanished behind me. I watched it in the mirror until it was swallowed by the darkness. Mile marker 135 appeared ahead. Then 140, everything proceeding normally. The GPS showed my position tracking exactly with the markers. Whatever glitch I'd experienced, hallucination, exhaustion, failing eyesight, seemed to have passed. The snow was accumulating on the road now. Not much yet, but enough to make the truck fishtail slightly on the curves. I downshifted, using the engine to help slow on the descents. The trailer weight was good, 38,000 pounds of drilling equipment, but that just meant I had more momentum to manage. At mile marker 150, I stopped for a break. Not a real stop, just pulled off onto the shoulder to clear my head. The engine idled rough. I could feel a miss in one of the cylinders. Nothing serious, but I made a mental note to check it when I got to Dead Horse. I climbed out of the cab. The cold hit me like a physical force. -40, maybe -45. Cold enough that the moisture in my nostrils froze instantly. Cold enough that breathing hurt. I stood there anyway, letting the wind scour my face. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need something real and immediate to shock you back into the present. The landscape was featureless. White ground, black sky, no horizon line between them. I could see my truck's lights and that was it. Nothing else existed in the world. No other vehicles. No buildings. No sign of human presence at all. Just me and the cold and the darkness. I walked around the truck, checking the lights, the trailer connection, the straps holding the load. Everything secure. Everything as it should be. I was stalling, I realized. Stalling because I didn't want to get back in that cab and drive north and see that marker again. But I did. I climbed back in, pulled the door shut, and continued on. Mile marker 155, 160, 165. The snow was really coming down now. Visibility had dropped to maybe 100 feet. I turned the wipers up to maximum speed. They struggled to keep up. Ice was forming on the blades, reducing their effectiveness. I'd need to stop soon and clear them by hand. The heater was blowing full blast, but I was still cold. That deep, bone-level cold that no amount of external heat can touch. I turned up the fan. It didn't help. Mile marker 170 passed, then 175. I was making decent time despite the weather. At this rate, I'd reach Coldfoot by 8 a.m., Dead Horse by early evening. I'd sleep in the truck, unload in the morning, and be back on the road south by noon tomorrow. Routine, normal, the way things were supposed to be. Mile marker 116 appeared in my headlights. I didn't brake this time, didn't stop. Just kept driving, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The marker slid past on the right. Exactly where it should be, except it shouldn't exist at all. I counted in my head. 10 seconds, 20, 30. I checked the GPS. Mile 178. I looked back at the road. Mile marker 116 was ahead of me again. No, I said. No, that's not possible. But there it was, getting closer with every second. I could see the numbers clearly now. 116, white on green, official highway department sign. This time I did stop. Pulled the truck to a halt right in front of the marker. Put it in park. Pulled the brake. Then I got out. The wind nearly knocked me over. It had picked up to maybe 30 miles per hour, driving the snow horizontally. I pulled my hood up and cinched it tight around my face. My breath crystallized instantly, hanging in the air like frozen ghosts. I walked up to the marker, put my hand on it. The metal was so cold it burned through my glove, but it was real, solid. I could feel the rivets that held the number plate to the post. Could feel the slight irregularity where the paint had chipped and been touched up. I looked back at my truck. The lights seemed very far away, like they were at the end of a long tunnel. The engine noise was muffled by the wind. I looked at the marker again, traced the numbers with my finger. 119. Then I noticed something I'd missed before. There was writing on the back of the sign, small letters scratched into the metal with something sharp. I leaned closer, trying to make them out in the dim light reflecting from my headlights. Turn back. That was all it said. 2 words. scratched deep enough that I could feel them with my glove. My chest felt tight. I realized I'd been holding my breath. I forced myself to exhale, to inhale, to breathe normally. It was just a sign, just metal and paint and bolts. It couldn't hurt me. Whatever was happening, whatever malfunction in my perception or reality was occurring, a road sign couldn't hurt me. I walked back to the truck, climbed in, sat there for a moment with my hands on the wheel. The radio crackled to life. I actually jumped in my seat. The display lit up, showing the channel number. Static hissed from the speaker. Then a voice. "Marcus?" I stared at the radio. It knew my name. The voice knew my name. "Marcus, you need to turn around." "Who is this?" My voice came out as a whisper. "You're not supposed to be here. Not past marker 116. Turn back while you still can." "What are you talking about? Who the hell is this?" The static increased. The voice faded in and out. "Not safe. The road doesn't go where you think. Where does it go? Nowhere. Nowhere at all." The radio went dead again. Display dark. Speaker silent. I tried the power button. Nothing. I looked out at the road ahead. Snow and darkness. That was all. But now it seemed different somehow. Wrong. Like the road itself was a lie. A line drawn across nothing that might vanish at any moment. I checked my fuel gauge. 3/4 of a tank. Plenty to get to Dead Horse, plenty to turn back to Fairbanks if I wanted to. I looked at the GPS. Still showing mile 178, my position a blue dot on the thin red line of the highway. I looked at the mile marker through the windshield. 116. I sat there for 5 minutes, maybe longer. The snow piled up on the hood. The wipers kept sweeping it away from the windshield. The engine rumbled, everything mechanical and normal and real. Finally, I put the truck in gear. I drove forward. The mile marker receded behind me. I watched it in the mirror until I couldn't see it anymore. Then I looked ahead. The road stretched out, white and endless. Mile marker 180 appeared. Then 185. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. Except I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. That by passing that marker, by ignoring the warning, I'd crossed some invisible threshold. The road looked the same. The truck felt the same. But something was different now. The darkness seemed darker. The cold seemed colder. Mile marker 190 passed. My hands were shaking on the wheel. I told myself it was just the cold, just the adrenaline wearing off. The GPS showed my position at mile 192. I kept driving north, into the storm, into the darkness. Because that's what I do. That's what I've always done. I'm a long-haul trucker on the Dalton Highway. I run north to Dead Horse. I don't turn back. But as mile marker 195 appeared in my headlights, I realized I'd made a mistake. The numbers were backwards. The numbers were backwards. Not upside down. Not distorted. Backwards. Like I was reading them in a mirror. 195, but the digits were reversed. Wrong. Impossible. I blinked hard. Rubbed my eyes with one hand while keeping the other on the wheel. When I looked again, the marker was normal. 105, the way it should be. The way it had always been. "Get it together, Marcus," I said aloud. My voice sounded thin in the cab, swallowed by the darkness and the storm. I checked the clock on the dashboard. 6:47 a.m. I'd been driving for almost 3 hours. Should be past Coldfoot soon, maybe another hour to the Atagun Pass. Then it was all downhill, relatively speaking, to Dead Horse. 8 more hours, give or take. 8 hours, and this run would be over, and I could sleep for 12 hours straight in a shitty motel bed and pretend none of this had happened. The snow was letting up slightly. Visibility had improved to maybe 200 feet. The road curved to the east, following a valley between two mountain ridges. I knew this stretch. The terrain funneled the wind here, creating drifts that could bury a truck in hours. The highway department kept a grader stationed nearby during winter, but I hadn't seen any sign of recent plowing. The road surface was rough, corrugated with packed snow and ice. Mile marker 200 passed, then 205. I counted them obsessively now, matching each one against the GPS. Everything aligned, everything normal. My breathing had almost returned to normal. The shaking in my hands had stopped. I was starting to convince myself that the whole thing had been exhaustion. Sleep deprivation playing tricks. I'd been pushing too hard lately, taking too many runs without proper rest. The human brain does strange things when deprived of sleep, creates patterns where none exist, sees threats in shadows. At mile marker 210, I passed another truck heading south. Just a glimpse of lights through the snow, then it was gone. But it was enough. Proof that the world was still normal, still functioning according to the usual rules. Other trucks meant other drivers, other people. I wasn't alone out here, except I felt alone. More alone than I'd ever felt in 11 years of running this road. The radio stayed dead. I'd tried it a dozen times, cycling through channels, checking connections. Nothing. Not even static. Just silence. That bothered me more than I wanted to admit. The radio was my lifeline out here. My connection to other drivers, to civilization, to the assurance that someone would know if I went off the road or jackknifed or broke through the ice on one of the river crossings. Mile marker 215. The road began to climb. I downshifted, letting the transmission take some of the load. The engine groaned. That miss in the cylinder was getting worse. I could hear it now, a slight stutter in the rhythm. Nothing critical, but it added to the growing sense of wrongness. The temperature gauge showed -42. Cold enough that my breath would freeze solid if I exhaled too hard. Cold enough that exposed skin would develop frostbite in less than 5 minutes. I adjusted the heater vents again, a useless gesture. The cab felt like a meat locker. At mile marker 220, I saw the lights. They were behind me, distant but closing fast. Headlights in my mirrors growing larger. Another truck, pushing hard to make up time. I moved over slightly, giving them room to pass. The road was barely wide enough for 2 vehicles, but drivers up here knew how to thread the needle. The lights kept coming. Getting closer, I could see them clearly now. The high beams and running lights of a heavy truck. Big rig, probably a Kenworth or Freightliner. Coming up fast. Too fast for these conditions. "Slow down, you idiot," I muttered. The lights filled my mirrors. They had to be right on my bumper now. I couldn't see anything but glare. I flashed my brake lights, a warning. The other truck didn't slow down. Then it pulled alongside me. I glanced over, trying to see the driver. But the other cab was dark. No interior lights, no silhouette visible. Just a black rectangle moving beside me, matching my speed exactly. We ran parallel like that for maybe 30 seconds, side by side on a road barely wide enough for one vehicle. I kept waiting for the other truck to either pass or fall back. It did neither, just stayed locked in position next to me, like we were tethered together. I tapped my brakes, slowing slightly. The other truck slowed too, maintaining that exact distance. I sped up, so did they. My heart was hammering now. This wasn't right, wasn't safe, wasn't possible on this narrow road in these conditions. I hit the horn, a long blast. No response from the other truck. Then, slowly, it began to drift closer, angling toward me. I saw the trailer starting to overlap with my lane. If they kept coming, we'd collide. At this speed, with this load weight, a collision would send both trucks off the road, probably kill both drivers. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, knowing they couldn't hear me. The other truck kept drifting. 10 feet away. 8. 6. I jerked the wheel to the right, pulling onto the shoulder. My tires hit the deep snow and the truck lurched. The trailer started to fishtail. I fought for control, counter-steering, feathering the brakes. The truck slewed sideways, engine screaming. For a moment I thought I was going to jackknife, going to roll, going to end up buried in a snowdrift with a crushed cab and no radio to call for help. Then the tires caught. The truck straightened. I bounced back onto the pavement, breathing hard, my pulse pounding in my ears. I looked in the mirror. The road behind me was empty. No lights, no other truck, just darkness and falling snow, like it had never been there at all. I kept the speed down for the next mile, my hands locked on the wheel. My heart was still racing. Adrenaline made everything seem hyper-real, every sound amplified, every shadow suspicious. At mile marker 225, I pulled over completely. Just stopped the truck on the shoulder, engine idling, and sat there. My hands were shaking again. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles ached, trying to make them stop. It didn't work. I climbed into the sleeper cab. I needed to lie down, just for a minute, just to catch my breath and let my heart rate return to normal. The bunk was narrow and hard, the blanket thin. I lay there fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. The truck rocked in the wind. I could hear it howling outside, a steady shriek that rose and fell. Snow hissed against the windows. The engine rumbled. Normal sounds. Familiar sounds. I closed my eyes. I don't know if I slept, maybe for a few minutes, maybe not at all. That hypnagogic state again, suspended between conscious and unconscious. My mind drifted. I thought about my ex-wife Jennifer, wondered where she was now. Probably remarried, probably happy. Probably never thought about me at all. I thought about my father. He'd been a trucker too. Long haul, mostly the lower 48. He died on the road, massive coronary at a truck stop in Wyoming. Slumped over a plate of eggs and hash browns, the waitress said. Quick, at least, better than a lot of ways to go. I thought about mile marker 116. My eyes snapped open. I sat up. The cab was freezing, colder than it should be. I could see my breath, thick clouds that dissipated slowly in the stagnant air. The heater was still running. I could hear the fan, but no heat was coming out. I climbed back into the driver's seat. Everything looked normal. Dashboard lights glowing. GPS showing my position at mile marker 226. Engine temperature good. Fuel gauge at just under 3/4. I checked the vents. No warm air. I adjusted the temperature control. Nothing changed. The heater had quit working. Perfect, I said. Just perfect. I could keep driving. The engine would throw enough residual heat to keep me from freezing. Probably. Maybe. Or I could wait here, try to troubleshoot the heater, risk the engine temperature dropping too low to restart. Neither option was appealing. I put the truck in gear and pulled back onto the road. Mile marker 230 appeared. The road was climbing steadily now. I was approaching the foothills of the Brooks Range, the final major obstacle before Dead Horse. The terrain here was brutal. Steep grades, tight switchbacks, avalanche zones. In good weather, it was challenging. In this storm, it was potentially lethal. I kept the speed down, 25 miles per hour, sometimes less. The trailer swayed behind me, 40,000 pounds of drilling equipment trying to drag me backwards on the climbs, trying to push me forward on the descents. I worked the transmission constantly, upshifting and downshifting using engine compression to maintain control. My fingers were getting numb despite the gloves. I flexed them repeatedly, trying to maintain circulation. My feet were worse. I couldn't feel my toes anymore. That was bad. That was frostbite territory. At mile marker 235, the GPS flickered. Just a brief disruption, the screen going black for a second before coming back. But my position had changed. According to the display, I'd jumped ahead to mile marker 245. "No," I said. "No, that's wrong." I looked out at the road. Mile marker 235 was receding behind me. I was at 235, not 245. The GPS was malfunctioning, except when I checked my fuel gauge, it showed I'd used more fuel than I should have at mile 235. The math didn't work unless I'd actually covered 50 miles since Fairbanks. The GPS flickered again. This time it showed mile marker 116. I stared at it. The little blue dot on the screen, positioned at marker 116. But I was past 235. I knew I was past 235. I'd seen the markers, counted them. The screen flickered once more and went dead. Just black. No backlight, no display, nothing. God damn it! I slammed my palm against the dashboard. The impact sent a jolt of pain up my arm. The GPS stayed dark. I was driving blind now. No radio, no GPS, just the markers and my memory of the road. I'd done this route so many times I could probably drive it with my eyes closed. But that was in normal conditions, not in a storm, not with my heater dead and my core temperature dropping. I should turn back. The thought came clear and insistent. Turn around, head back to Fairbanks, get the truck serviced, get warm, live to drive another day. But I couldn't. Something wouldn't let me. Some stubborn core of pride or stupidity or simple inertia. I'd never turned back. Not once in 11 years. I wasn't going to start now. Mile marker 240 appeared. Then 245. The numbers reassured me. Solid. Real. Proof that I was still moving forward. Still making progress. The road leveled out briefly. I was on a plateau between ridges. The wind hit the truck broadside here, shoving it sideways. I corrected, overcorrected, corrected again. The steering felt loose. Something in the linkage was wearing out. Add it to the list of problems. In the distance I saw lights. Not vehicle lights, structure lights. The pale orange glow of sodium vapor lamps. A building. Probably the highway maintenance station at Coldfoot. Civilization. Warmth. Help. I pushed the accelerator down slightly, picking up speed. The lights grew closer. I could see the outline of buildings now. Several structures clustered together. The maintenance station, a small store, maybe a restaurant. Mile marker 250 passed. The lights were maybe a mile ahead now. I'd be there in 3 minutes. I could stop, get warm, call someone to look at the heater, maybe even sleep in a real bed. The lights went out. All of them, simultaneously, like someone had thrown a switch. One moment they were there, the next moment, darkness, complete and total. I kept driving. Maybe it was just a power failure. Happened all the time up here. The buildings would still be there. Someone would have a generator. Mile marker 255 appeared in my headlights. Where the building should have been, there was nothing. Just empty road. Empty land. Empty darkness. I slowed to a crawl, looking for any sign of the structures I'd seen. Tire tracks, disturbed snow, anything. There was nothing. The road stretched ahead, unmarked and pristine. I stopped the truck, got out, walked forward into my headlight beams. The cold seized me immediately. My breath came in short gasps. I could feel my lungs protesting, the air so cold it burned. I looked around, to the left, to the right. Behind me. Nothing. No buildings, no lights. No indication that Coldfoot existed at all. But it did exist. I'd stopped there dozens of times. Small place, barely deserves to be called a town, but it's there. Real. Permanent. You can't just make a town disappear. I walked back to the truck. My legs felt stiff. The cold was getting deeper now, reaching past my clothes, past my skin, settling into my bones. I climbed back into the cab, started driving again, because what else could I do? I couldn't stop here, couldn't wait for help that wasn't coming. The only direction was forward. Mile marker 260, 265, 270. The road climbed steadily. I was in the Brooks Range now, for real this time. The mountains rose on both sides, vast shadows against a slightly less vast darkness. The road switchbacked up the slopes. My speed dropped to 15 miles per hour. The trailer jackknifed on a tight curve. Not badly, I caught it before the angle got critical, but it took me 20 minutes to straighten out. 20 minutes of inching forward and back, fighting for traction on the ice. 20 minutes of burning fuel and losing core temperature. When I finally got the rig straight again, I was shaking uncontrollably. My teeth chattered. My vision was starting to blur at the edges. Hypothermia. The word floated through my mind, clinical and detached. Your body temperature drops. You lose coordination. Then you lose consciousness. Then you die. Simple as that. I needed to do something. Generate heat somehow. I thought about the load in the trailer. Drilling equipment. Heavy, solid, useless for starting a fire. I had an emergency kit in the sleeper. Flares, a space blanket, some energy bars. But using flares inside the cab would poison me with carbon monoxide. The space blanket might help, but it wouldn't generate heat, just reflect what little I had left. I kept driving, up and up. The road carved a path through the mountains, a thin line of almost safety through impossible terrain. One mistake here, one patch of black ice, one moment of inattention, and the truck would roll, tumble down a 1,000-foot slope. They might not find me until spring. Mile marker 275 appeared, then 280. I was getting close to Adagun Pass now, the highest point on the highway. From there it was downhill to Dead Horse, downhill and hopefully warmer. Except it wasn't getting warmer, it was getting colder. The temperature gauge on the dashboard showed -51. That wasn't possible. Not in February, not even in the Brooks Range. -51 was January temperature. Deep January. Record-breaking January. But the gauge didn't lie. -51 and dropping. At -51, steel becomes brittle. Rubber seals crack. Lubricants turn to paste. Equipment fails in ways you can't predict. I'd heard stories about trucks literally falling apart in extreme cold. Axles snapping. Frames cracking. Fuel turning to gel in the lines. I looked at my side mirror. In the dim glow of my running lights, I could see ice forming on the metal. Thick ice, growing visibly, spreading across the surface like cancer. The truck shuddered. Not from the road, from within. A deep vibration that I felt through the seat. Something was wrong with the engine. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on, don't do this. Not here, not now." The shudder came again. Harder this time. The steering wheel vibrated in my hands. Mile marker 285 appeared. The numbers were covered in ice. I could barely read them. The engine coughed. No, 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 no. It coughed again. The RPMs dropped. I pressed the accelerator. Nothing happened. The engine was losing power. I looked for a place to pull over, anywhere flat, anywhere out of the travel lane. But the road here was carved into the mountainside, Rock wall on one side, sheer drop on the other. No shoulder, no pullouts, nowhere to go. The engine died. The truck rolled forward on momentum, slowing gradually. I steered it as straight as I could, let it coast until it stopped. Then silence. Just the wind. Just my breathing. Just the creak of contracting metal. I sat there in the darkness. My headlights were fading as the battery drained. Soon they'd be gone too. Then it would just be me and the dark and the cold. I should try to restart the engine. That was the logical thing to do. Turn the key, hope the battery had enough juice, hope the fuel hadn't gelled, hope the cold hadn't seized the pistons. But I didn't move. I just sat there watching my breath form clouds in the dimming light, feeling the cold press closer with every second. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, crunching in the snow. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. I turned my head, looked out the driver's side window, saw nothing but darkness. The footsteps continued. Crunch, 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 rhythmic, patient. They stopped right outside my door. I held my breath. Didn't move, didn't make a sound. Someone knocked on the window. 3 times, slow, deliberate. Knock, 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 knock. I looked at the window, saw only my own reflection in the dark glass. And something else. A handprint, on the outside of the window, pressed against the glass, but backwards, like someone inside the cab had pressed their hand against the window from my side. The handprint began to frost over, ice crystals spreading outward from the palm, from the fingers, growing, covering the entire window. The temperature gauge showed -63. The footsteps walked away. Crunch, 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 moving toward the back of the truck. I heard my trailer door open. I heard my trailer door open. Not unlock. Not break. Open. Like someone had the key, like someone belonged there. I sat frozen in the driver's seat. The cold had seeped so deep into me now that I barely felt it anymore. That was bad. That meant I was past shivering, past the point where my body could generate heat. I was just cold now, a cold thing in a cold place. The footsteps crunched around the back of the trailer. I heard the sound of metal on metal. Someone, something, was moving my cargo. I could hear the drilling equipment shifting, scraping against the trailer floor. Heavy objects being moved as if they weighed nothing. I should get out, check on my load. That was my responsibility. I'd signed for that equipment. If it got damaged, stolen, whatever, it was on me. But I didn't move. Couldn't move. Every instinct I had screamed at me to stay inside the cab. Lock the doors. Don't look. Don't engage. Pretend it wasn't happening. The noises from the trailer continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped. Silence. The footsteps crunched back toward the front of the truck, past the driver's door, kept going forward into the darkness ahead. I waited. 10 seconds, 20, 30. The footsteps didn't come back. I tried the ignition, turned the key with stiff, numb fingers. Nothing. Not even a click. The battery was dead, or the cold had seized the engine, or something else had failed in ways I couldn't diagnose or repair. I was stuck. Mile marker 287, according to the last sign I'd seen. 27 miles past marker 260, where Coldfoot should have been but wasn't. Maybe another 20 miles from Adigan Pass. Another 80 beyond that to Dead Horse. Impossible distances. Might as well be light years. I climbed into the sleeper cab, found the emergency kit. The space blanket was there, folded into a compact square. I shook it out, wrapped it around my shoulders. It crinkled and rustled, made me feel like a baked potato. The material was thin, almost nothing, but it reflected body heat, assuming I had any body heat left to reflect. I found the energy bars, ate one even though I wasn't hungry. Fuel for the body, keep the metabolism running, stay alive. The flares were there too. 3 of them. Road flares, the old-fashioned kind that burned with a bright red flame. They'd provide light and heat, for maybe 15 minutes each. And then they'd be gone, and I'd be in the dark again. I decided to save them. Wait until I absolutely needed them. Wait until the cold got so bad that I had no other choice. I wrapped the space blanket tighter and lay down on the bunk. Tried to think. Tried to make a plan. Wait for another truck to come by, flag them down, get a ride. Simple. Except I hadn't seen another vehicle since that phantom truck that had tried to run me off the road. How long ago was that? An hour? 2? Time was getting slippery, hard to track. Walk, I could walk. Dead Horse was maybe 100 miles north. I could make that, 1 foot in front of the other. Keep moving. Generate heat through motion. Except at minus 60+ degrees, I'd be dead in an hour. Probably less. The cold would shut down my extremities first, then my core, then my brain. I'd get confused, disoriented. I'd think I was warm. I'd take off my coat. That's what hypothermia does. Makes you feel hot when you're freezing. Makes you do the one thing that'll kill you. So, I couldn't stay. Couldn't walk. Couldn't start the truck. I was trapped. The realization settled over me like another layer of cold. This was it. This was how it ended. Marcus Webb, age 42, frozen to death in his truck on the Dalton Highway. They'd find me in the spring when the thaw came, if they found me at all. I thought about Jennifer again. Wondered if she'd even hear about it. Probably not. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. Didn't have mutual friends anymore. She'd moved on, built a new life. I was probably just a bad memory to her, the husband who loved his truck more than her. Maybe she was right. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, just to rest them, just for a moment. I heard the radio. My eyes snapped open. The radio was on, static hissing from the speaker, the display glowing green in the darkness. I climbed back into the driver's seat, stared at the radio. I'd tried it a dozen times. It was dead, completely dead. No power, no signal, nothing. But it was on now. The display showed channel 19, the standard trucker channel. The static shifted, resolved into a voice. Faint, distant, but definitely a voice. Marcus Webb. I grabbed the mic. My fingers were so numb I almost dropped it. Yes, this is Marcus Webb. I'm stranded at mile marker 287. Engine failure. I need assistance. Over. Static, then. Not on the road anymore, Marcus. What? I don't understand. Please repeat. I need help. Over. You passed marker 116. We told you to turn back. You should have turned back. Who is this? Where are you? Can you send help? The voice was clearer now. Male. Older. Calm. Almost sad. There's no help coming, Marcus. No one knows you're here. No one can find you. Because you're not on the Dalton Highway anymore. That's crazy. I can see the markers. I can see the road. I'm at 287. Look at your GPS, Marcus. It's dead. It's been dead for hours. Look at it. I looked. The screen was on. Glowing blue. The map displayed clearly. But my position wasn't on the Dalton Highway. Wasn't on any road. The blue dot sat in the middle of the blank terrain. Maybe 50 miles west of where the highway should be. That's a malfunction. The GPS is broken. The GPS is fine, Marcus. You're the one who's lost. I looked out the windshield. In the dim glow of the running lights, I could see the road. Pavement. Clear as day. Mile markers. Signs. This was the Dalton Highway. I'd driven it 1,000 times. You're wrong. I'm on the road. "Are you?" I opened the door, climbed out. The cold hit me, but I barely felt it anymore. Everything was numb. I walked forward into the headlight beams. The road was there. I could see it. Pavement stretching ahead into the darkness. I walked to where the white line should be. Looked down. Snow, unbroken snow. No pavement, no line, no tire tracks, just pristine snow, like no vehicle had ever passed this way. I turned around, looked back at my truck. It was sitting in the middle of nowhere, no road beneath it, just tundra, frozen ground. The truck's tires had left tracks in the snow, but the tracks didn't follow a road. They wandered, curved, doubled back, made no sense. I walked toward the truck, following my own footprints. Except they weren't going back to the truck. They were going away from it, leading off into the darkness. I stopped, looked at the footprints, then at the truck, then back at the footprints. They split, 2 sets, one going to the truck, one going away. But I'd only walked one direction. "This isn't real," I said aloud. My voice sounded strange, too loud, too clear. "It's as real as anything else," the radio said. I could hear it from inside the cab, even though I was 20 feet away. "You just can't see it clearly anymore, not after you passed marker 116. I walked back to the truck, climbed in, shut the door. The space blanket crinkled around me. "What is marker 116? I asked the radio. "A warning, a threshold, a place where the road stops being a road and becomes something else." "That doesn't make sense." "No, it doesn't. But that doesn't make it any less true." I looked at the temperature gauge. -72. The needle was buried at the bottom of the dial. "Am I going to die here?" The radio was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Everyone dies, Marcus. The question is where, and when, and how." That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. The radio went dead. Display dark. Speaker silent. I tried the power button. Nothing. I sat there in the darkness, in the cold, alone. Then I heard it again. The footsteps, crunching in the snow. Multiple sets this time, coming from different directions, approaching the truck. They stopped, all around me. I could hear breathing, not human breathing, too slow, too deep, like bellows pumping air. Someone knocked on the driver's door, then the passenger door, then the back wall of the cab. 3 knocks each, slow, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't answer, didn't move. The breathing continued, patient, waiting. I thought about the flares. I could light one, see what was out there, know what I was dealing with. But part of me didn't want to know. Part of me understood that some things are better left unseen, that some knowledge doesn't help, only hurts. The breathing faded. The presence, whatever it was, moved away. I heard the footsteps crunch off into the distance. I waited for my heart to slow down. It didn't. I ate another energy bar, drank some water from a bottle in the sleeper. The water was nearly frozen. Ice crystals floated in it. I drank it anyway. I thought about my father, his last drive, that truck stop in Wyoming. I'd always wondered if he knew, if he felt it coming. That moment when your heart decides it's done, when it just stops and everything ends. Did he have time to be afraid? Or did it happen too fast? I hoped it was fast. I checked my watch. The digital display was dead. Frozen. Stopped at 8:23. No idea if that was AM or PM. No idea how long I'd been stranded. I wrapped the space blanket tighter and lay back down. Closed my eyes. Tried to sleep. Tried to dream about somewhere warm. Instead, I dreamed about mile marker 116. In the dream, I stopped at the marker. got out of the truck, walked up to it. The metal was warm to the touch, hot even, like it had been sitting in sunlight. I looked at the numbers. They were changing, shifting. 116 became 611, then 161, then 116 again, flickering between configurations. I looked at the back of the sign. The scratched words were deeper now, still readable. Turn back. But beneath them, new words had appeared, fresh scratches in the metal. Too late now. I woke up. The cab was completely dark. The running lights had finally died. The battery drained, no lights, no heat, no sound except my own breathing and the wind outside. I felt for the emergency kit, found the flares, pulled one out, struck it against the cap. It sparked, caught, burned with a bright red glow that hurt my eyes. The light revealed the interior of the cab. Everything normal, dashboard, steering wheel, space blanket, me. Then I looked at the windshield. There were handprints on it, dozens of them, pressed against the glass from the outside. Small hands, large hands, all sizes, all pressed flat against the windshield like people had been looking in, trying to see me, trying to reach me. The handprints were frosted over, ice crystals spreading from each palm, from each finger. The entire windshield was covered, a constellation of frozen handprints. I held the flare up, looked at the side windows. More handprints, hundreds of them, covering every inch of glass. The entire truck encased in frozen evidence of presence. The flare sputtered. 15 minutes, they'd said. It felt like less. In the dying light, I saw movement outside. Shadows shifting in the darkness beyond the handprints. Shapes that didn't quite resolve into anything recognizable. They moved around the truck, circling, patient. The flare went out. Darkness crashed in. I sat in the silence, clutching the space blanket, trying not to breathe too loudly, trying not to think about the handprints, trying not to imagine what had made them. Time passed. How much, I couldn't say. Minutes, hours, might have been days. The cold was absolute now. I couldn't feel my hands, couldn't feel my feet. My face was numb. My thoughts were slow, thick, like they had to fight through ice to form. This was it. This was hypothermia. This was the end. I thought about lighting another flare, seeing one more time before the darkness took me. But I didn't. I couldn't make my hands work. Couldn't make my fingers close around the flare. Couldn't make myself move. I just sat there, waiting. Then I heard the engine. Not my engine. Another engine. Diesel, getting closer. Headlights swept across the cab, bright, blinding, real, a truck. Someone had found me. I tried to shout, couldn't make my voice work, tried to move, couldn't make my body respond. The lights got brighter. The engine noise got louder. The truck was stopping, right next to me. I heard a door open. Footsteps. Someone was walking toward my truck. Thank God, I was saved. A knock on the driver's door. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. The door opened. Cold rushed in. Colder than anything I'd felt before. Colder than -70. Colder than frozen. This cold had weight. Presence. Intent. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against headlights. I couldn't make out details. Just a shape. Human-shaped, roughly. It reached toward me. I tried to pull back. Couldn't move. The hand touched my shoulder. The cold sank through my coat, through my skin, through my bones, all the way to my core. The figure leaned close. I could smell it now. Not rot, not decay. Something else. Something older. Like permafrost and darkness and the space between stars. It spoke. The voice was wrong. Too many layers, too many tones, like multiple people speaking at once, or one person speaking across different times. You should have turned back at marker 116, Marcus. Who are you? We're what's been waiting. We're what's always been waiting. For drivers who don't turn back. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to come with us now. Where? Where all the lost truckers go. The figure pulled me up. I stood. My legs worked. My body responded. But it didn't feel like me controlling it. It felt like something else. Moving me, using me. I walked to the door. Stepped out into the cold. It didn't hurt anymore. Didn't feel like anything. I looked around. There were trucks everywhere, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Scattered across the tundra, all different makes and models. Some old, some new. All dark, all empty. All with handprints on the windows. This is where you stay now, the figure said. This is where the road goes. Past marker 116. Into the cold. Into the nothing. For how long? Until someone else doesn't turn back. Until we have a replacement. Then you can move on. Move on to where? The figure didn't answer. Just pointed toward the horizon. I looked. In the distance I could see lights. Faint. Flickering. Like a town. Like civilization. Is that Dead Horse? It's what you want it to be. Walk toward it. See how far you get. I started walking. The snow crunched under my boots. The cold pressed against me. But I couldn't feel it anymore. Couldn't feel anything. I walked for an hour, maybe more. The lights stayed the same distance away. Never getting closer. Never getting farther. I stopped, turned around. The truck was right behind me. Right where it had been. Like I'd never moved at all. The figure was still there, waiting. I told you, it said. You can't leave. No one leaves. There has to be a way. There was. Marker 116. You drove past it. I walked back to my truck. The Peterbilt, blue paint, cracked dashboard. My home for 11 years. I climbed into the cab, sat in the driver's seat. Everything was frozen solid. Ice coated the steering wheel, the seat, the controls. The entire interior was a sculpture of frost. I sat there anyway. The figure appeared in the doorway again. You'll get used to it, it said. Eventually, after a few years, or a few decades. Time is different here, you'll see. What am I supposed to do? Wait, like the others. Wait for the next driver who doesn't turn back. Then you can show them, guide them, become what I am. No, I won't do that. You will. Everyone does. Because there's nothing else to do. Nothing else to be. This is what's past marker 116. This is what's at the end of the road. The figure stepped back. The door closed. The darkness returned. I sat in the frozen cab alone, surrounded by handprints on the windows, waiting for something that might never come. And then I heard it. An engine. Distant, getting closer. Headlights appeared on the horizon, moving toward me. A truck, a real truck, running north, just like I had been. I climbed out, stood by the road, the real road, the one that only appeared sometimes in certain conditions for certain drivers. The truck approached. I could see the driver now, a woman, young, maybe 30. She saw me, slowed down. I raised my hand, flagged her down. She stopped, rolled down the window. "You okay?" she shouted over the engine noise. I wanted to warn her, wanted to tell her to turn back, wanted to say that the road ahead wasn't a road anymore, that marker 116 was waiting, that she needed to go south while she still could. But I didn't. Instead, I heard myself say, "Yeah, I'm fine, just checking my load. You heading to Dead Horse?" "Yeah, Long haul from Fairbanks. Weather's supposed to get worse. You might want to push through. Don't stop if you can help it. Will do, thanks. She rolled up the window, started to pull away. Then she stopped, rolled the window down again. Hey, did you see a mile marker back there? 116? My GPS is acting weird. Says I'm at 116, but I just passed 215. I felt something cold settle into my chest. Not the cold of temperature, something else. Something worse. No, I heard myself say. Haven't seen anything like that. GPS up here is always glitchy. I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, thanks. Stay warm out here. She drove away. I watched her taillights disappear into the darkness. Then I walked back to my truck, climbed into the frozen cab, sat in the frozen seat, waiting, because that's what you do here. Past marker 116. In the cold, in the nothing. You wait for the next driver who doesn't turn back, and then you become the thing that guides them here. I've been here 11 years, or maybe 11 hours, or maybe 11 minutes. Time doesn't work the same way past marker 116. Sometimes I think it doesn't work at all. I know my name is Marcus Webb. I know I drove a blue Peterbilt. I know I had a wife named Jennifer who left me because I loved the road more than her. These facts sit in my head like stones, heavy, solid, but distant, like they belong to someone else. I watch the other drivers sometimes, the ones who stopped here before me. There are hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They wander between the trucks. Sometimes they try to start their engines. The sound echoes across the tundra. Click, 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 click. But nothing catches. Nothing runs. The cold is too deep. The distance is too far. Some of them talk to each other. Quiet conversations that I can almost hear if I listen hard enough. They discuss routes they remember, loads they carried, truck stops where the coffee was good, normal things, human things, as if saying them enough times will make them real again. I don't talk to them. I don't know why. Maybe because talking would make this real, would make this permanent. As long as I stay quiet, I can pretend I'm just taking a break, just pulled over for a rest. Soon, I'll start the engine and drive north to Dead Horse, and everything will be normal. Except the engine doesn't start. Hasn't started in 11 years or 11 hours or however long I've been here. The handprints on my windows are permanent now. The ice has fused to the glass. When I look through them, the world outside is fragmented, broken into pieces by the shapes of palms and fingers. Sometimes the handprints move, just slightly. A finger shifting position, a thumb pressing harder against the glass. I don't look at them when that happens. I've tried walking out, following the lights on the horizon. I've tried it maybe 100 times. The lights never get closer. The distance never changes. After a while, could be minutes, could be hours, I always end up back at my truck. Like the walk never happened. Like the distance between here and there doesn't really exist. There's a guy in a Kenworth parked about 50 yards from me. I see him sometimes, sitting in his cab, staring at his steering wheel. He's been here longer than me. I can tell by the ice. It's grown up the sides of his truck like crystal trees. Eventually, I think, the ice will cover everything. Will bury all of us. And we'll be part of the landscape. Part of the frozen nothing. I wonder if that would be better. If being fully consumed by the cold would be a kind of release. If the ice would let me stop waiting. Because waiting is all there is here. Waiting for the next driver. Waiting for the chance to pass this on. That's what the figure told me. That's the rule. You stay until someone else doesn't turn back at marker 116. Then they take your place. Then you can move on. Except I've seen drivers come through. Lots of them. And I've tried to warn them, tried to tell them to turn back, but the words don't come out right. They twist. They become something else, become directions instead of warnings, become the very thing that leads drivers past marker 116 instead of away from it. I hate that, hate what I've become. But I can't stop, can't change it. The cold has its hooks in me now. Deep, permanent. There's a new driver coming now. I can hear the engine, can see the headlights cutting through the darkness. A southbound truck this time, coming from Deadhorse, heading back to Fairbanks. The truck slows. The driver is probably checking his GPS, probably seeing something wrong, probably wondering why the display shows him 20 miles off the road when he's clearly on the highway. I climb out of my cab, stand by the road. The real road. The one that appears and disappears. The one that only exists for certain drivers in certain moments. The truck stops. The driver rolls down his window. He's older than me, maybe 60. Gray beard, tired eyes. "Hey, you seen mile marker 116 around here?" he asks. I want to scream, want to grab him by the collar and tell him to drive. Just drive. Don't stop, don't ask questions. Get as far from here as possible. But I don't, I can't. The cold is in control now. "Yeah," I hear myself say. "It's about 3 miles north, but the road's tricky up there, lots of drifts. You might want to take it slow." He nods. "Thanks, my GPS is going crazy, keeps jumping around." It does that up here, magnetic anomalies. Something about the permafrost. Makes sense. Well, I better get moving, storm's coming in. He starts to pull away, then stops, rolls the window down again. "You look cold, man. You got heat in your truck?" "Yeah, it's fine. Just checking my load." "Okay, be careful out here." He drives away, north, toward marker 116, toward the warning he won't heed, toward the choice that isn't really a choice anymore. I watch his taillights disappear. Then I walk back to my truck. Climb in, sit down. The handprints on the windows shift, just slightly, like they're making room for one more. I wonder how many drivers have sat in this cab, how many have waited here in this exact spot, staring through frosted glass at a frozen world. How many have told themselves it's not real, it's just exhaustion, just cold, just the isolation of the ice road playing tricks. I used to count the days, made marks on the dashboard with my knife. But the marks kept disappearing, or multiplying. The numbers stopped making sense. So I stopped counting. I used to think about Jennifer, about our house in Tacoma, about the garden she loved, about the way she'd look at me when I came home from a run, like she was checking to make sure I was still the man she married. About the last time I saw her standing in the doorway, crying, telling me she couldn't do this anymore, couldn't be married to someone who was always leaving. I should have stayed, should have given up the road, found a local route, been home every night. But I didn't. I chose this, chose the ice, chose the solitude. Maybe that's why I'm here. Maybe this is what happens to drivers who love the road too much, who cross too many lines, who ignore too many warnings. Maybe marker 116 is where you end up when you've gone too far to come back. The radio crackles. It does that sometimes. Random bursts of static, sometimes voices, fragments of conversations that might be real or might be echoes from another time, another place. Northbound at marker 220. Weather's clear. "See you in Fairbanks." Normal trucker talk, normal routes, normal lives. I pick up the mic, try to respond, but no sound comes out. The radio is receiving, not transmitting. I can hear them, they can't hear me. Story of my life. I set the mic down, look out through the handprints. The darkness is absolute, the kind of darkness that exists before stars, before light, before anything. Sometimes I see things moving out there, shapes that might be animals, might be other drivers, might be something else entirely. They drift through the cold like smoke, never quite solid, never quite gone. I've stopped trying to understand what they are. Understanding doesn't help, doesn't change anything. The temperature gauge still reads -72. It's been reading -72 for 11 years, or 11 hours, or however long. The needle is frozen in place, like time, like me. I lean back in the seat, close my eyes. Try to remember what warm felt like. Try to remember sunlight, the feeling of sweat on skin, the weight of heat pressing down. I can't. The memories are there, but they're abstract, intellectual, like something I read about once but never experienced. The cold has become normal, has become the only thing. Everything else is fiction. I hear another engine, closer this time, different sound, lighter. Maybe a pickup truck, maybe a civilian. I don't get out, don't go to warn them or guide them. Someone else will handle it. One of the other drivers, the ones who've been here longer, who've forgotten more, who've become more efficient at doing what needs to be done. The engine passes, doesn't stop. Lucky driver, lucky choice, or maybe unlucky. Maybe they'll stop at marker 116 tomorrow, next week, next year. The marker waits, patient, permanent. Everyone passes it eventually. I open my eyes, look at the dashboard, at the crack running from the GPS mount to the passenger side. I've watched that crack for 11 years, watched it grow, watched it spread. It's covered in ice now, filled with frost, but it's still there, still the same crack, still proof that this truck, this life, was real once. I used to care about that, used to need that proof. Now I'm not sure why. The handprints on the windshield shift again, more pronounced this time, fingers spreading, palms pressing harder, like whatever made them is trying to get in, or trying to get out. I don't look, don't acknowledge, don't give it the power of attention. That's the trick I've learned. Don't engage, don't respond, just sit, just wait, just endure. Eventually, and it might be years, might be seconds, eventually someone will take your place. Eventually, you'll be released. Eventually, you'll get to move on to whatever comes after this. At least, that's what the figure told me, what it promised. But I haven't seen it since that first night. First day, first moment. And I'm starting to think maybe it lied. Maybe there is no eventually. Maybe this is permanent. Maybe past marker 116, nothing ever changes. Maybe this is what forever looks like. The thought should terrify me, should fill me with despair, but it doesn't. I'm too cold for that, too numb. Terror requires heat. Despair requires hope. I have neither. I just have this cab, this seat, this waiting. The radio crackles again. Marcus Webb. I look at it. The display is glowing. Channel 19. Can you hear me, Marcus? I recognize the voice. It's mine. My voice. From outside the truck, I look out the window. There's a figure standing by the driver's door. My height, my build, wearing my coat, my face. It's me standing outside, looking in. What do you want? I ask. To show you something, my voice says. Come outside. I've been outside. There's nothing there. There is now. Come see. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But curiosity is the last human thing I have left. The last spark that hasn't frozen over. I open the door. Step out. The cold doesn't touch me. I'm beyond that now, beyond feeling, beyond change. My double stands a few feet away, exactly like me. Down to the last detail, the scar on my left hand from a knife that slipped, the crooked way my nose sits from a bar fight in Anchorage. Everything. What am I looking at? I ask. Your replacement, it says. I turn. There's another truck pulling up, slowing down. A blue Peterbilt, 2015 model, same as mine. The driver gets out, walks toward us. He's younger, maybe 35, dark hair, tired eyes. He looks at me, then at my double, then back at me. Either of you guys seen mile marker 116? He asks. I open my mouth to answer, to warn him, to tell him to run, but my double speaks first. Yeah, it's right here, he points. I look. There's a sign right next to my truck. Mile marker 116. I don't know how I missed it. It's been there the whole time. Or it just appeared, or it was always there and I couldn't see it. The new driver walks up to the sign, touches it. The metal is warm under his hand. I know because I remember. I remember touching it in my dream. I remember the heat. This is wrong, the new driver says. This marker shouldn't be here. But it is, my double says. And you're here too. So what are you going to do about it? The new driver looks at his truck, then at mine, then at the darkness beyond. I should turn back, he says. Yes, my double agrees. You should. But I won't. No, you won't. The new driver gets back in his truck, starts the engine, drives north, past the marker, into the darkness, into the cold, into the nothing. My double turns to me. Your turn, it says. My turn for what? To leave. That was your replacement. You can go now. I look toward the horizon. The lights are still there. Closer now. Much closer. Close enough that I can see details. Buildings, streets, people. That's not Dead Horse, I say. No, my double agrees. It's not. What is it? The next place. The place after this, where all the lost drivers go when they're done waiting. Is it better? It's different. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. I look at my truck, the blue Peterbilt, the cracked dashboard, the home I've had for 11 years, the prison I've had for 11 years or 11 hours or however long. Can I say goodbye? I ask. To what? I don't know. To this. To who I was. You were a truck driver named Marcus Webb. You ran the Dalton Highway. You didn't turn back at marker 116, that's all. There's nothing else to say goodbye to. Maybe my double is right. Maybe that's all I ever was. A driver, a route, a choice. I start walking toward the lights. They're close now. So close I can almost touch them. Behind me, I hear an engine start. The new driver, younger me, the one who didn't turn back, beginning his wait. I don't look back. Looking back never helps. The lights get brighter. The buildings take shape. I can see doors, windows, signs that I can almost read. I'm maybe 20 feet away when I stop. Something's wrong. The buildings are empty. The windows are dark. The signs are blank. Everything is hollow. A facade, a stage set with nothing behind it. I turn around. The road is gone. My truck is gone. The new driver is gone. There's nothing but darkness and cold and distance. I'm alone. Completely alone. More alone than I've ever been. Hello? I call out. No answer, just the wind, except there is no wind. Just silence that sounds like wind. I start walking back, toward where the road should be, where my truck should be, where anything should be. but there's nothing. Just emptiness. Just void. I walk for hours, days, years. Time doesn't exist here. Neither does distance. I'm moving but getting nowhere. Standing still but traveling vast spaces. Eventually, and I don't know how long eventually is, I see something. A shape in the darkness. Getting closer. It's a truck. Blue, Peterbilt, 2015 model. My truck. I walk up to it. The driver's door is open. The cab is empty. I climb in, sit in the seat. It's cold, so cold, but familiar, mine. The handprints are on the windows. The crack is in the dashboard. The radio is dead. Everything is exactly as I left it. I sit there, waiting. Because that's what you do here. Past marker 116. In the cold. In the nothing, you wait. And sometimes, rarely, but sometimes, you see headlights approaching, and you climb out, and you guide another driver here. And you tell yourself that this time it'll be different. This time you'll be released, but it never is, and you never are. Because, past marker 116, nothing ever changes. Nothing except the handprints on the windows. They're growing, spreading, covering more glass. Soon they'll cover everything. Soon I won't be able to see out at all. And maybe that's better? Maybe not seeing the emptiness is a kind of mercy. I close my eyes. The radio crackles. Marcus Webb. I don't open my eyes. Don't respond. You can't leave, Marcus. Nobody leaves. I know, I whisper. Good. That's good. Accepting it makes it easier. Does it? No. But we tell you that anyway. Because what else is there to say? The radio goes silent. I sit in the darkness, in the cold, in the waiting, and I hear footsteps outside, crunching in the snow. Multiple sets, coming closer. They stop at my door, 3 knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I don't answer. The door opens anyway. The cold rushes in. Deeper than before, colder than anything. Colder than the space between atoms. Colder than death. A figure stands in the doorway. Not my double this time. Something else. Something older. Made of ice and darkness, and the weight of all the drivers who didn't turn back. It reaches for me. I let it. Because what choice do I have? What choice did I ever have? Its hand touches my shoulder. The cold sinks through, down to my core, down to wherever the thing that makes me still exists. And I understand now, finally, completely. There is no eventually, no replacement, no moving on. Those were lies, comforting fictions to make the waiting bearable. The truth is simpler, crueler. Past marker 116, you don't wait for a replacement. You become part of what does the replacing. You become the cold, the darkness, the thing that knocks on windows, the thing that leaves handprints on glass. You become the road itself, the marker, the warning that no one heeds. The figure pulls me up. I stand, walk to the door, step out. My body, what used to be my body, stays in the truck, slumped in the seat, frozen solid. Another piece of wreckage in the graveyard of drivers who didn't turn back. I float, drift, become diffuse, become nothing and everything. Become the cold that has no temperature, the darkness that has no depth, the distance that has no measure. I see other trucks now, hundreds of them, thousands, scattered across dimensions I didn't know existed, each one containing a driver, each driver waiting, each wait eternal. I see the road, the real road, not the Dalton Highway, something older, something that existed before highways, before roads, before the concept of travel itself. It's a line scratched across reality, a wound that never heals. And we're the infection, the drivers who pushed too hard, who ignored the warnings, who thought we could go anywhere, be anywhere, as long as we kept moving. But you can't outrun what's inside you. And for us, for drivers, what's inside is the need to go, the need to push forward, the need to never stop. So we don't stop, even here, even past marker 116, even past the end of everything. We just keep driving, keep moving, keep pushing into the cold. Forever. I see a new set of headlights approaching, a truck, coming north. Young driver, tired eyes. Just like all of us were once. I drift toward them, become solid enough to be seen, human enough to be trusted. The truck slows. The driver rolls down the window. "Hey," he says, "you seen mile marker 116 around here?" And I hear myself answer, hear the words form, hear the lie take shape. "Yeah, it's just up ahead. 3 miles maybe, but be careful. The road gets tricky after that." He nods, thanks me, drives on, toward the marker, toward the choice, toward becoming what I am. And I watch him go, watch his taillights disappear into the darkness, into the cold, into the nothing. Then I turn, drift back to my truck, my body, my frozen moment, and I wait, because that's all there is now, all there ever was, all there ever will be. Just the cold, just the waiting, just mile marker 116 appearing where it shouldn't, warning of something that can't be avoided. And somewhere, somewhen, another driver is approaching, another set of headlights cutting through the dark, another person who won't turn back. Because nobody turns back. Nobody except the ones who never left in the first place, the ones who became the road itself, the ones like me, Marcus Webb, age 42. Died on the Dalton Highway at mile marker 287. Except there is no mile marker 287. There never was. There's only 116. There's always been only 116. And when they find my truck, if they find my truck, they'll see the handprints on the windows. They'll see my body frozen in the seat. They'll see the crack in the dashboard, the dead radio, the empty cab. But they won't see the marker. They never do. Not unless they're supposed to. Not unless they're next. The GPS in my truck still shows my position. Still marks where I am. Or where I think I am. Or where I was when time stopped meaning anything. Mile marker 116. The marker that shouldn't exist. The marker that's everywhere and nowhere. The marker that's always ahead, no matter how far you drive. I look at the handprints on my windows one last time. They've stopped moving now. Stopped growing. They've found their final shape. And I realize, with the last shred of whatever consciousness I have left, that they're not trying to get in. They're trying to get out. All the drivers who came before me, all the ones who didn't turn back, trapped in the glass, trapped in the ice, trapped in the moment of their choice, trying to warn the next one. But the warning looks like directions. The plea looks like guidance. The truth looks like a lie, because that's what happens here, past marker 116, where the road stops being a road and becomes something else. Everything inverts. Every meaning reverses. Every attempt to help becomes another way to harm. And we can't stop, can't change it, can't break free. We just keep doing what we've always done, driving, moving, pushing forward, into the cold, into the dark, into the forever that has no end because it never had a beginning. My name is Marcus Webb. I was a truck driver on the Dalton Highway. I didn't turn back at mile marker 116, and now I'm the reason nobody else does either. My name is Carl Dietrich. I'm 51 years old. I've been driving ice roads in the Northwest Territories for 23 years. That's longer than most marriages last. Longer than most careers. Longer than some people live. People think ice road trucking is about the money. They're half right. The pay is good. 60, 70,000 for a 2-month season if you push hard. But that's not why most of us do it. We do it because normal roads feel wrong after a while. Too permanent, too certain. Ice roads are honest. They tell you the truth. They'll hold you or they won't. They'll get you across or they'll kill you. No pretense. No lies. I drive a 1998 Western Star 4900. White cab, red chassis. The odometer stopped working at 847,000 miles. That was 6 years ago. God knows what the real number is now. The truck has been rebuilt 3 times. New engine, new transmission, new everything except the frame. But it's still the same truck. Still mine. It was late January when this started. The season was in full swing. The ice roads across Great Slave Lake and up toward the diamond mines had been open for 3 weeks. I'd already made 4 runs. Heavy loads, mining equipment, fuel drums, construction materials, the kind of freight that pays well because it's dangerous, because the ice groans under the weight, because you're always one crack away from going through. I was at the staging area in Yellowknife, a gravel lot on the edge of town where trucks gather before heading out onto the ice. There were maybe a dozen rigs there that morning. I knew most of the drivers. Tommy Rusk, who'd been running ice roads since before I was born. Maria Kowalski, one of the few women who'd made it more than 1 season. A couple of new guys whose names I hadn't bothered to learn. They probably wouldn't be back next year. The temperature was minus 34 Celsius. Cold, but not unusual. The sky was that peculiar Arctic white that means snow is coming. Not a storm, just snow. Steady, relentless, the kind that doesn't stop for days. I was drinking coffee from a thermos, gas station coffee. Burnt, too strong, perfect. I stood next to my truck, watching the other drivers prep their rigs. Checking tire pressure, testing lights, the routine of departure. Tommy walked over. He moved slow these days. 67 years old with bad knees and a worse back. But he still drove, still made the runs. Because what else was there? You taking the main route? He asked. That's the plan. Ice is good, 30 inches minimum, but watch the pressure ridges near the narrows. They shifted since yesterday. I nodded. Tommy knew the ice better than anyone. When he gave advice, you listened. You heading out soon? I asked. Another hour. Got a load of diesel drums. Taking it slow. See you on the other side. Yeah. He paused, looked at the sky. Weather's turning. Don't push it if visibility drops. Never do. That was a lie. I always pushed it. We all did. Time was money. Delays cost. The ice roads were only viable for maybe 8 weeks a year. You maximized every day or you lost the season. Tommy walked away. I climbed into my cab and started the engine. It turned over rough. The cold made everything stiff. I let it idle for 10 minutes, letting the oil warm up, letting the transmission fluid circulate. You don't rush things in this temperature. Mechanical failure out on the ice means death. Simple as that. My load was secured. 8,000 pounds of drilling equipment. Not the heaviest I'd carried, but substantial. The weight was good, gave me traction, kept me stable. But it also meant I'd sink faster if the ice failed. I pulled out of the staging area and headed north. The road transitioned from pavement to gravel to ice within 5 miles. The change was marked by a sign. Ice Road. Drive at your own risk. I'd seen that sign hundreds of times. It never got less ominous. The ice stretched ahead of me, white, flat, featureless. The tracks from previous trucks had left shallow ruts in the snow covering. I followed them. They were the safest path, where trucks had already passed without breaking through. The speed limit on ice roads is 25 kilometers per hour, slow enough to minimize the pressure wave that forms under the ice when a heavy vehicle moves across it. Go too fast, and that wave can crack the ice from underneath. You'll never see it coming. Just feel the ice give way, and then you're in the water. Sinking, drowning, freezing. I kept my speed at exactly 25. My eyes scanned constantly, looking for changes in the ice color. Dark patches meant thin ice. White patches meant safe. Cracks were obvious. Black lines spreading like lightning across the surface. You avoided those. The radio crackled. I had it tuned to the ice road frequency. Drivers called out conditions, warned about bad spots, confirmed safe passage. Northbound at kilometer 12, smooth crossing. Southbound at kilometer 8, pressure ridge forming near west track. Use east track. Copperin Island checkpoint, visibility dropping, snow incoming. I keyed the mic. Northbound at kilometer 5, conditions good. No response. Normal. You reported your position. Others listened. That was the protocol. The snow started at kilometer 7, light at first, just flakes drifting down. But within minutes it intensified. The visibility dropped from a mile to maybe 300 meters. I slowed to 20 kilometers per hour, engaged the differential lock. The truck's handling changed. More stable, less likely to slide. The GPS on my dash showed my position. A blue dot on a white background. The ice road was marked as a dotted line across Great Slave Lake. According to the map, the route was straightforward. 60 kilometers across open ice. Then a transition to land. Then another 40 kilometers of winter road to the mine. Except the GPS was acting strange. The blue dot kept jumping. One moment I was at kilometer 10. The next moment at kilometer 8. Then back to 10. Then 9. The position kept fluctuating. I tapped the screen. Sometimes that helped with GPS glitches. Up here, satellite coverage was spotty. The signal bounced off the ionosphere in weird ways. Delays happened. Inaccuracies were common. The dot settled at kilometer 11. That seemed right. I'd been driving for about 40 minutes. 11 kilometers made sense. The snow was heavier now, a white wall that reduced visibility to maybe 100 meters. I could barely see the tracks ahead of me. I considered turning back, waiting for the snow to pass. But the forecast had said this would last for 6 hours. 6 hours of delay meant missing my delivery window. Missing the window meant waiting another day. Another day meant lost money. I kept driving. At kilometer 15, I passed another truck, heading south. Empty. I could tell by how high it sat on its suspension. The driver flashed his lights as we passed. A greeting, acknowledgement. We're both out here. We're both alive. Good luck. I flashed back. The truck disappeared into the snow behind me. I was alone again. The ice made sounds, groaning, creaking, like the hull of a ship under stress. That was normal. Ice is never silent. It's constantly shifting, expanding, contracting, adjusting to temperature and weight and water currents below. You learn to interpret the sounds. A low groan meant safe ice. A sharp crack meant get off immediately. Everything in between was judgment. The ice groaned now, low, deep, safe. I checked my mirrors. Behind me, my tracks disappeared into the white. Ahead, the previous truck's tracks led forward. I followed them like a lifeline. At kilometer 18, the GPS started acting up again. The blue dot jumped to kilometer 25, then back to 18, then to 30, then off the map entirely. "Damn it," I muttered. I turned the unit off, waited 10 seconds, turned it back on. It took a minute to acquire satellites. When it finally locked on, it showed my position at kilometer 18. Except I'd been driving for another 5 minutes since I last looked. I should be at kilometer 20 by now, maybe 21. I looked at the odometer. It showed I'd traveled 22 kilometers since leaving the staging area. That matched my estimated position. The GPS was definitely wrong. I turned it off. Decided to navigate by dead reckoning. I knew this route. I'd driven it 40 times. I didn't need GPS. I had the tracks ahead of me. I had my compass. I had my experience. The snow intensified. Visibility dropped to maybe 50 meters. The world became a white sphere around my truck. Everything beyond that sphere ceased to exist. I slowed to 15 kilometers per hour. This was pushing the edge of safe driving conditions. Much worse, and I'd have to stop. Wait it out. Risk be damned. At what should have been kilometer 25, I saw something strange. The tracks ahead of me split. One set continued north. Another set veered east. Sharply east, almost 90 degrees. I stopped the truck, put it in neutral, pulled the parking brake, climbed out. The cold hit me like a wall. The wind had picked up, maybe 40 kilometers per hour. With the wind chill, it was probably minus 50. I pulled my hood tight, secured my face mask, put on my goggles. I walked ahead of my truck, followed the tracks to where they split. The snow was filling them in fast. In another hour, they'd be gone completely. I examined the split. The tracks heading east were fresh. Very fresh. Maybe 15 minutes old. But that didn't make sense. The route went north. Always north. There was nothing to the east. Just open ice, then pressure ridges, then thinner ice near the shore. Going east was dangerous, potentially fatal. I looked at my compass. Confirmed which direction was which. North, east. The compass was correct. The tracks heading east were definitely going the wrong way. Someone had made a mistake, a big one. Probably a new driver who'd lost his bearings in the snow, or someone whose GPS had malfunctioned and they'd followed it blindly. I should report it, key the radio, warn other drivers. Except my radio was back in the truck, and I was already freezing. My fingers were going numb despite the gloves. I hurried back to the cab, climbed in. The heater was blowing, but it felt like ice. I held my hands up to the vents. The warmth was painful, like pins and needles, but worse. I grabbed the radio mic, keyed it. "This is Carl Dietrich, northbound at kilometer 25. Be advised, there's a vehicle track heading east from this position. Appears to be a navigational error. If anyone is off route, respond." Static. Then, "Copy that, Carl. This is Tommy. I'm at kilometer 18. Haven't seen any traffic heading east. What's your visibility?" "Maybe 50 meters. The snow is heavy." "Understood. I'll keep an eye out. Be careful up there." "Will do." I set the mic down, looked ahead through the windshield. The tracks heading north were still visible. Barely. But they were there. I put the truck in gear, released the parking brake, started moving again. Except something felt wrong, the ice, the sound it was making. The groan was different, higher pitched, more strained. I stopped immediately, listened. The ice groaned again, a rising tone, like stress building, like something about to give. I looked at the ice around my truck. White. solid. No visible cracks. But that didn't mean anything. Cracks could form underneath. Invisible until it was too late. I needed to move. Staying stationary on questionable ice was dangerous. The weight concentrated in one spot. Better to keep moving, distribute the load. I eased the throttle. The truck rolled forward. Slow, gentle. The ice groaned but didn't crack. I followed the tracks north. 1 kilometer, 2, 3. The groaning continued, never stopping, never easing. Just a constant sound of stress. At kilometer 28, the tracks disappeared, not gradually, not fading into the snow. They just stopped. One moment they were there, clear tire marks in the snow. The next moment, nothing. Smooth, undisturbed snow ahead, like the vehicle had lifted off the ice and flown away. I stopped the truck, stared ahead. That wasn't possible. Tracks don't just vanish. I climbed out again, walked ahead. The cold was worse now. My face hurt, my eyes watered, and the tears froze immediately. I reached the point where the tracks ended, knelt down, brushed the snow away. The ice underneath was smooth, unbroken. No tracks, no tire marks, nothing. I looked back at my truck. My tracks were clear, leading from my truck to where I stood. But ahead, nothing. I stood up, looked around. The snow was so thick I could barely see 20 meters. Everything was white, undifferentiated, disorienting. I pulled out my compass, checked my direction. North. I was facing north. The tracks had been leading north. They should continue north. But there were no tracks. I walked forward another 10 meters, then 20, then 30. Just smooth snow. No indication that any vehicle had ever passed this way. I stopped. My heart was pounding. This didn't make sense. I'd been following those tracks for 28 kilometers. They were real. They existed. Trucks had made them. Multiple trucks, over multiple days, creating the safe path across the ice. But now they were gone. I turned around, started walking back to my truck. The visibility was so bad that I almost missed it. Walked right past it. Only saw it because the headlights were on. I climbed back into the cab. My hands were shaking. Not from cold, from something else. Fear, maybe, or confusion, or the dawning realization that something was very wrong. I grabbed the radio mic. "This is Carl Dietrich. Anyone on this frequency, please respond." Static. "Tommy? Maria? Anyone?" More static, then a voice, faint, distorted. "Carl, can't... signal breaking." "Tommy, is that you? I can barely hear you." "Where are you?" "GPS shows off route. I'm at kilometer 28, following the main track. But the tracks just disappeared. There's nothing ahead. Doesn't make sense. Tracks don't..." "Repeat your position. Kilometer 28. The tracks ended. I don't know where to go." Static, then silence. The radio went dead. No static, no carrier wave, just silence. I tried the power button. The radio wouldn't turn back on. I checked the connections. Everything was secure. I checked the fuse. Fine. The radio was just dead. "Great," I said aloud. "Perfect." I sat there for a moment, trying to think, trying to make a decision. I could turn back, follow my own track south, return to the staging area, report the situation, let someone else figure it out. Or I could continue north. Navigate by compass, trust my experience. The mine was roughly 40 kilometers ahead. Even without tracks, I could get there. Probably. The professional thing would be to turn back. The safe thing. The smart thing. But I'd never turned back from a run. Not once in 23 years. And I wasn't about to start now. I put the truck in gear, oriented north by compass, and drove forward into the blank white nothing ahead. The ice groaned under my wheels. The ice groaned under my wheels. Not the normal groan. This was different. Sharper, more immediate. Like the ice was protesting. Like it didn't want me here. I kept my speed at 10 kilometers per hour. Slower than I'd ever driven on ice. But without tracks to follow, I had no idea what was ahead. No warning about thin spots. No indication of safe passage. I was driving blind. The compass on my dash showed north. I kept the needle centered. That was my only reference point. North meant the mine. North meant delivery. North meant finishing this run. The snow showed no sign of letting up. If anything, it was getting worse. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up. Ice was forming on the blades. Every few minutes I had to stop and clear them by hand. The process took maybe 30 seconds each time. 30 seconds of standing in minus 50-degree cold, chipping ice off rubber, my fingers screaming in protest. I'd been driving for 2 hours since the tracks disappeared. According to my dead reckoning, I should be at kilometer 45. Maybe 50, somewhere in that range. The mine couldn't be more than 10 kilometers ahead. 15 at most. But I saw nothing. No lights, no structures, no indication that human civilization existed anywhere in the world. Just white, just snow, just ice. The fuel gauge showed 3/4 full. Plenty to get to the mine and back, unless I got lost, unless I ended up driving in circles. Then the fuel would run out and I'd be stranded. And at this temperature in this storm, stranded meant dead. I checked the heater, still blowing, still warm. The engine temperature was good. Oil pressure normal. Everything mechanical was functioning. That was something. At what I estimated was kilometer 52, I saw tracks again. They appeared suddenly. One moment there was blank snow. The next moment, tire tracks, clear, recent, leading north. I stopped the truck, stared at them. Relief washed over me. I'd found the route again. Somehow, despite the snow and the lack of GPS and the disappearing tracks, I'd found it. I followed the tracks. They were fresh. The snow had barely started filling them in. Someone had passed through here recently, within the last hour. The tracks were strange, though. They wandered, curved left, then right, then left again. Not following a straight line, not following the optimal route. Just meandering across the ice like a drunk driver. But they were tracks. And tracks meant another truck. And another truck meant I wasn't alone out here. I followed them for 3 kilometers. The wandering continued. At one point, the tracks made a complete circle, just looped around and crossed themselves, then continued north. I stopped at the intersection, looked at the overlapping tracks. Someone had driven in a circle, for no apparent reason. That wasn't normal driving. That was someone who was lost, or confused, or panicking. I should have turned back then. Should have recognized the warning signs. But I didn't. I kept following the tracks. At kilometer 55, give or take, the tracks split again. One set continued north, another set went east, just like before. And just like before, the eastern tracks made no sense. There was nothing to the east. Nothing but danger. I stopped at the split. Climbed out. The wind had dropped slightly, but the cold was still brutal. I walked to where the tracks diverged. The snow was deep here, almost knee-deep. I had to wade through it. The tracks heading east were deeper than the ones heading north. Heavier vehicle, or maybe just more recent, before the snow filled them in as much. I followed the eastern tracks for maybe 20 meters. They led to a pressure ridge, a wall of ice pushed up by shifting plates, maybe 3 meters high, jagged, impossible to cross. The tracks stopped at the base of the ridge, just ended. No indication that the vehicle had turned around. No tracks leading back. Just nothing. I stared at the terminus. Where did they go? Did they go over the ridge somehow? That would require backing up and ramming it. Possible, but insane. The impact would damage the truck. Probably crack the ice. Definitely not worth it. I walked closer to the ridge, put my hand on the ice. It was solid, dense, cold enough to burn through my glove. Something caught my eye. A mark on the ice. I leaned closer. It was a scratch. A long, deep scratch running horizontally across the pressure ridge, like something metal had scraped along it. I followed the scratch. It extended for maybe 5 meters, then stopped. No explanation, no source, just a scratch. I looked down. There were footprints in the snow near the ridge. Boot prints, fresh. Someone had been here. Recently. The prints led away from the ridge, back toward where my truck was waiting. But they didn't go all the way back. They stopped after maybe 10 meters. Just like the tire tracks. Just ending in undisturbed snow. My breath was coming faster now, visible as white clouds in the cold air. This wasn't right. None of this was right. I turned and hurried back to my truck. The wind had picked up again. The snow was so thick I almost couldn't see the headlights. I had to follow my own footprints to find it. I climbed into the cab, slammed the door, sat there breathing hard. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. "Get it together, Carl," I said aloud. "It's just tracks, just snow, just ice." But it wasn't. It was something else, something wrong. I looked at the tracks leading north, the ones that didn't go to the pressure ridge. Those were the correct tracks, the safe tracks, the ones I needed to follow. I put the truck in gear and continued north. The tracks led me for another 5 kilometers. Straight. No more wandering, no more circles. Just north. Consistent. Correct. Then they ended again. This time I didn't stop, didn't get out, didn't investigate. I just kept driving. North. Always north. Trusting the compass. Trusting my experience. Trusting that eventually I'd see the lights of the mine. But I didn't. The kilometers clicked by. 60. 65, 70. According to my estimates, I should have reached the mine by now. Should have seen something, anything. But there was nothing. Just white. Just snow. Just the endless groan of ice under my wheels. At kilometer 75, or what I thought was kilometer 75, the landscape changed. The flat ice gave way to rough terrain. Pressure ridges appeared on both sides. The path between them narrowed. I had to slow to 5 kilometers per hour. Navigate carefully, avoid scraping the trailer on the ice walls. This area looked familiar. I'd driven through pressure ridge fields before. They formed near the edges of the lake, where the ice met land, where geological stress was highest. That meant I was close to shore, close to the transition to land. Maybe 5 kilometers from the mine. Relief flooded through me. I'd made it. Despite everything, the disappeared tracks, the wandering routes, the malfunctioning GPS, I'd made it. I navigated through the pressure ridges. The path twisted and turned, sometimes so narrow I had to fold in my mirrors to fit. But I kept moving, kept making progress. And then I saw it. A truck ahead of me, stationary, parked in the middle of the path between pressure ridges. I slowed to a stop, maybe 30 meters away. The truck's lights were off, no exhaust from the stack, no sign of life. I sat there for a moment, considering. Another truck meant another driver, maybe someone who'd broken down, someone who needed help. But something felt wrong. The way it was parked, centered perfectly in the path, blocking the way forward, like it was waiting. I turned on my high beams. They illuminated the truck clearly, a Western Star, older model, white cab, red chassis. Just like mine, the same truck, the exact same truck. I stared at it. That wasn't possible. There were plenty of Western Stars in the territories. Plenty of them configured the same way. It was just coincidence. Except I could see the license plate, even through the snow. Even at this distance, it was my license plate, my number. "No," I said. "No, that's not possible." I put my truck in reverse, backed up slowly, turned the wheel, tried to angle around the obstruction. The path was too narrow. I couldn't get past. The pressure ridges blocked me in. I stopped, put the truck in park, climbed out. The cold was absolute now. The wind had died. The snow fell straight down, heavy, wet, accumulating fast. I walked toward the other truck. My boots crunched in the snow. The sound was loud in the silence. I reached the driver's door, looked up at the window. It was dark. Crossed it over. I couldn't see inside. I tried the handle. It was unlocked. The door opened with a creak. The cab was empty. No driver. No personal belongings. No indication that anyone had ever been there. I climbed up onto the step, looked at the interior. Everything was there. Steering wheel, dashboard, seats, radio, GPS unit. All of it identical to mine. I looked at the GPS. It was on. The screen glowed blue. My position was marked on the map. Except I wasn't in this truck. I was in my truck, 30 meters away. The GPS showed 2 blue dots, one where this truck was, one where mine was, both labeled with my vehicle ID number. I reached out and touched the screen. It was warm. The unit was functioning, powered, connected to satellites. According to the display, I was at kilometer 83. But that couldn't be right. I'd only driven maybe 70 kilometers, and the mine was at kilometer 60 from the staging area. I should be past it. I should have seen it, unless I'd been driving in the wrong direction. Unless north on my compass wasn't really north. Unless the magnetic field was disrupted somehow and I'd been going east or west or south instead. I climbed down from the truck, walked back to mine, got my compass, walked back to the other truck. The compass showed north. Same direction I'd been driving. The magnetic field was fine. I looked at both trucks, mine behind me, the duplicate in front of me, both identical, both real, both impossible. I heard an engine, distant, getting closer, coming from the south. Another truck heading this way. I turned, saw headlights, faint, diffused by the snow, but definitely there, definitely approaching. Relief, finally. Another driver, someone who could explain, someone who could help. The headlights got brighter. The engine noise got louder. The truck was maybe 100 meters away now. 50, 20, it stopped, right next to my truck. The driver killed the lights, shut off the engine. I couldn't see who it was. The cab was dark. The snow obscured details. The driver's door opened. Someone climbed out, walked toward me. I waited, watching. As the figure approached through the snow, it was me. Same height, same build, same coat, same face, another me, walking toward me, through the snow, between the 2 identical trucks. We stood facing each other, maybe 3 meters apart. The snow fell between us. Neither of us spoke. Then the other me turned and walked toward the duplicate truck, climbed into the cab, shut the door. The engine started. The lights came on. The truck began moving, forward, north, into the pressure ridges, disappearing into the white. I stood there watching it go, until the lights faded, until the engine noise faded, until there was nothing but snow and silence. Then I turned and walked back to my truck. My real truck. The one I'd been driving. The the one I knew. I climbed into the cab, sat in the seat. My hands were numb. My face was numb. Everything was numb. I looked at the empty path ahead. The duplicate truck was gone. The way forward was clear. I should go back, should turn around, should return to the staging area and report everything. The disappeared tracks, the wandering routes, the duplicate truck, the other me. But I couldn't. The path behind me had filled with snow. My tracks were gone. I couldn't see where I'd come from. Couldn't navigate back even if I wanted to. The only direction was forward, north, always north. I put the truck in gear and drove into the pressure ridges. The ice groaned under my wheels. Louder now, more insistent. Like it was trying to tell me something. Like it was warning me. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. There was nowhere else to go. The pressure ridges closed in around me. The path narrowed. The ice walls rose higher. 3 meters, 5, 7, blocking out what little light remained. I turned on every light the truck had. High beams, fog lights, running lights, all of it, creating a bubble of illumination in the darkness. The path twisted, turned. I followed it, had no choice. The walls were too high to see over, too solid to break through. I was committed now, locked into this route, for better or worse. At kilometer 90, if the duplicate truck's GPS was accurate, the path opened up. The pressure ridges fell away. I emerged into open space. But it wasn't ice. It wasn't lake. It wasn't land. It was nothing, just white, featureless. No texture, no depth, no reference points, like driving through fog except the fog was solid. Like the snow had become reality, and reality had become snow. I stopped the truck, looked around, saw nothing, just white, in every direction, no horizon, no sky, no ground. Just white. I climbed out. My feet hit something solid. Ice, probably. Or snow. Or whatever this place was made of. I walked forward, 5 steps, 10, 20. Nothing changed. Just white. Everywhere. Endless. I turned around. My truck was right there. Right where I'd left it. I'd walked maybe 50 meters, but it looked like I'd never moved at all. I walked back. Climbed in. Sat down. The compass on the dash was spinning. Slowly. Continuously. Not pointing north, not pointing anywhere. Just spinning. The GPS was dead. Screen black. No power. The radio was dead. No static. No signal. Nothing. I was alone, completely alone, in a white void that had no direction, no time, no rules. I should have been terrified, should have been panicking. But I wasn't. I just felt empty. Hollow. Like I'd crossed some threshold and left all my emotions behind. I put the truck in gear, picked a direction at random, and drove. The white never changed, never varied. I could have been driving for minutes or hours or days. No way to tell. Then I saw tracks again. Tire tracks. In the white. Leading forward. I followed them. They were clear, recent, deep. They led me, for what felt like a long time. Then they ended. Just like before, just stopping in the middle of nothing. But this time there was something at the end. A truck, parked, lights off, engine off. I stopped, got out, walked up to it. A Western Star, white cab, red chassis. My truck, again. I looked back. My truck was behind me, the one I'd been driving. I looked forward. Another truck, also mine. I was standing between 2 identical trucks. Both mine. Both real. Both impossible. I heard an engine. Behind me. Getting closer. I turned. Saw headlights. Another truck. Coming from the direction I'd come from. It stopped. Right next to the first truck. My truck. The one I'd been driving. The driver got out. Walked toward me. It was me. Again. We stood facing each other. The second me looked confused, lost, exactly how I felt. Then I heard another engine, from a different direction, another set of headlights, another truck. It stopped. The driver got out, walked toward us, another me, then another engine, another truck, another me. They kept coming, from every direction, dozens of trucks, dozens of me's, all lost, all confused, all trapped in the white void. We stood in a circle, all of us, looking at each other, none of us speaking, none of us understanding. Then one of the mez spoke. "Where are we?" None of us answered, because none of us knew. "I was following the ice road," another me said. "The tracks disappeared. I kept going north, then I ended up here." "Same," said another. "Same," said another. "Same," I said. We all had the same story. All following the same route. All losing the tracks. All ending up here. "How do we get out?" one of them asked. Silence. "We go back," another said. "Follow our tracks back." "There are no tracks back," I said. "They disappear, just like the ones we followed to get here." More silence. Then one of the trucks started moving, heading off into the white. The driver, one of the MES, was trying to escape, trying to find a way out. Another truck followed, then another. Soon they were all moving, all heading in different directions, all searching. I climbed into my truck, started the engine, joined them. We scattered across the white void. Our lights created small bubbles of visibility in the endless nothing. I could see other trucks, distant, moving, searching. One by one, they disappeared, swallowed by the white, until I was alone again. I kept driving, no direction, no destination, just movement. Just the desperate need to be somewhere other than here. Then I saw it, ahead. Something dark, something that wasn't white. I drove toward it. It got larger, more defined. A structure, a building, the mine, the destination. Finally, I stopped in front of it, climbed out, walked to the entrance. The door was open. I went inside. It was empty. No people, no equipment, no sign of life. Just a hollow shell, a facade. I walked through the building, room after room, all empty, all abandoned, all meaningless. In the last room, I found something, a map, pinned to the wall. The ice road, marked clearly, with locations, distances, routes, mile marker 28, where the tracks disappeared. It was marked with a red X. Next to the X, someone had written, "End of road." Below that, "Beyond this point, direction has no meaning." Below that, you are in the fold now. Below that, there is no leaving. I stared at the map, at the words, at the implications. Then I heard footsteps, behind me, in the hallway. I turned, nothing, empty hallway, empty building. The footsteps continued, getting closer. Multiple sets, all around me. I walked back to the entrance, back to my truck. The white void was gone. I was on ice again, clear, solid ice. The pressure ridges surrounded me. The path was visible. But my truck was different. The paint was faded, the tires were worn, rust had appeared on the frame. Like years had passed in minutes. I climbed in. The interior was aged, seats cracked, dashboard brittle, everything degraded. I looked in the mirror. My face was the same, not aged, not changed, just the same. But everything around me had deteriorated. Like time was selective. Like it affected objects but not people. I started the engine. It coughed, sputtered, barely caught. But it ran. I put the truck in gear and drove, north, still north. Because what else was there? The path led me back through the pressure ridges, back onto open ice, back toward familiar terrain. But it wasn't familiar. The landscape was different. The ice was rougher. The pressure ridges were taller. Like geography had shifted. Like the world had changed. I drove for what felt like hours, maybe days. Time had no meaning anymore. Just the endless white. Just the constant movement. Then I saw them. In the distance. Lights. The staging area. Yellowknife. Civilization. I drove toward them, faster now, desperate. The lights got closer. I could see buildings, trucks, people. I reached the edge of the ice, the transition to land. I drove up onto the shore, but something was wrong. The buildings were different, newer, the trucks were different, models I didn't recognize. I stopped, got out, walked toward the nearest building. A man was standing there, younger than me, maybe 30. He looked at me with confusion. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Where am I?" "Yellowknife, staging area." "You just come off the ice?" "Yes. What year is it?" He looked at me strangely. 2047, why? That couldn't be right. I'd left in 2024. I'd been driving for maybe a day, 2 at most. "What's the date?" I asked. "January 18th. You okay, man? You look lost." "I'm fine, just disoriented." I walked back to my truck, climbed in, looked at my hands. Still the same. No older, no changed. I looked in the mirror. Same face, same age. I'd been gone 23 years, but I hadn't aged a day. I put the truck in gear, drove into the staging area, parked next to the other trucks. Tommy's truck wasn't there. Maria's wasn't there. All the drivers I knew were gone, replaced by strangers in strange trucks on a strange version of the ice road. I climbed out, walked to the office. A woman sat behind the desk, young, efficient. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I need to report something. About the ice road. About kilometer 28. She looked at her computer. "The ice road was decommissioned in 2031. Hasn't been operational for 16 years. "What?" "The mine closed. No more freight, no more trucks. The ice road is gone." "But I just came from it. I just drove it." She looked at me with concern. "Sir, are you sure you're okay? There's no ice road anymore. Hasn't been for years." I walked out, back to my truck, sat in the driver's seat. The ice road was gone, had been gone for years, but I'd just driven it, just crossed it, just lost 23 years on it. I looked at the GPS. It was working now. Showed my position clearly. Yellowknife, staging area. I looked at the route. The ice road wasn't on the map, wasn't marked, wasn't there. Like it had never existed. But the truck was real, the wear was real, the rust was real. 23 years of aging in what felt like 2 days. I started the engine, pulled out of the staging area, drove south, away from the ice, away from the north, away from the road that didn't exist anymore. But as I drove, I kept checking the mirror, kept looking back. And in the distance, through the snow, I could see them. Lights, headlights, trucks on the ice, moving, driving, still running the road, still trapped in the fold. I drove south for 3 days. The truck protested. The engine missed on 2 cylinders, the transmission slipped. The brakes barely held. 23 years of wear compressed into a single run had destroyed it mechanically. But it still moved, still carried me, still did what it was designed to do. I didn't stop, didn't sleep, didn't eat, just drove, putting distance between me and whatever the ice road had become. Whatever had happened at kilometer 28. But distance didn't help, because every time I closed my eyes, even for a second, even to blink, I saw them. the other trucks, the other versions of me, all trapped in the white void, all searching for a way out that didn't exist. On the third day, the engine finally seized. Just locked up completely about 50 kilometers south of Port Providence. I coasted to the shoulder and sat there as steam poured from under the hood. The smell of burning oil filled the cab. I climbed out, popped the hood. The engine block had cracked. Coolant and oil mixed in a toxic soup on the ground. The truck was done, dead. After 23 subjective years of service compressed into 2 objective days, it had given all it had. I sat on the bumper, looked at the highway. Real pavement, real road, solid, permanent. The opposite of ice. A truck passed, then another. Normal freight runs, normal drivers, living normal lives, going to normal destinations. I wondered if they knew. If they'd ever heard stories about the ice road, about kilometer 28, about the fold. Probably not. Probably written off as legend, as driver superstition, as the delusional ramblings of men who'd spent too much time alone in the cold. A tow truck arrived maybe an hour later. I must have looked pathetic, sitting there next to my dead Western Star. The driver, a young guy, maybe 25, climbed out and whistled low when he saw the engine. "What happened to this thing?" he asked. "Long story. You been running it hard?" "Something like that." He hooked up the truck and towed me to Fort Providence. There was a mechanic shop there, a small place. The owner took one look at my truck and shook his head. "This is scrap," he said. "Frame is rusted through, engine's done, transmission's gone. I've seen trucks at the wrecking yard in better shape. Can you fix it?" "Fix it? No. I can maybe get you a few thousand for parts, but that's it." I nodded. I'd expected as much. "Do it. Sell it for parts." He gave me a ride to the nearest town with a bus station. I bought a ticket to Edmonton, then another to Vancouver, then another to Seattle. Just kept moving. Putting distance, putting time, trying to outrun what had happened. But you can't outrun yourself. Can't outrun your own memories. They travel with you. Inside you. Permanent and inescapable. I ended up in a motel in Bellingham, Washington. Small room, single bed, TV that only got 3 channels. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall for 3 days. Didn't eat, didn't sleep, just sat. On the 4th day, I went to the library, used their computer, searched for information about the ice road. There were articles, lots of them. Historical pieces about the heyday of winter roads in the north, about the diamond mines, about the trucks that kept them supplied. And there were the incident reports, drivers who'd disappeared, last known position, somewhere on the ice. Never found. Bodies never recovered. Just gone. Tommy Rusk. Disappeared February 3rd, 2024. Last radio contact at kilometer 28. Maria Kowalski. Disappeared February 7th, 2024. Last GPS position at kilometer 30. 15 more names. All disappeared in February 2024. All last known positions between kilometer 28 and 35. The authorities had investigated. Found nothing. No tracks. No evidence. No sign of what happened. The ice was solid. The weather was manageable. But the drivers were just gone. The ice road had been closed after that. Too dangerous. Too many losses. The mines found alternative routes. Air freight. Summer roads. The winter ice roads were abandoned, left to time and weather. But according to what the woman at the staging area told me, that had happened in 2031, 7 years after the disappearances. 7 years of continued operation despite the losses. I dug deeper, found more articles, more reports. The disappearances had continued, every season. Multiple drivers, always the same area, always kilometer 28 to 35. Some drivers reported strange phenomena before disappearing, tracks that vanished, GPS malfunctions, radio failures, duplicate trucks, temporal anomalies, just like I'd experienced. The authorities had tried to explain it. Magnetic anomalies from mineral deposits, ice conditions creating optical illusions, extreme cold causing mechanical failures and hallucinations, mass hysteria. But they never found the bodies, never found the trucks, never found anything, because the drivers weren't dead. They were in the fold, in the place beyond kilometer 28, where direction had no meaning, where time moved differently, where reality bent in ways that didn't make sense. I found a forum. Ice road drivers sharing stories. Most of it was routine. Weather conditions, mechanical tips, route advice. But there was a thread, buried deep, titled simply K28. I clicked on it. The thread was old, started in 2019. Dozens of posts, all anonymous, all describing the same phenomena. Tracks disappeared at kilometer 28, kept driving north, never reached the mine. Eventually came out at the staging area, but 3 weeks had passed and no one remembered me leaving. Saw my own truck ahead of me, drove up to it. It was empty, but the engine was warm, like I'd just gotten out. But I was still in my truck. How is that possible? The fold takes you. Doesn't matter if you turn back or keep going. Once you pass kilometer 28, you're in it. Some people get out, most don't. I've been trapped for 6 years. Keep driving the route. Keep trying to find the exit. But I always end up back at kilometer 28. Time doesn't move here. Or it moves wrong. I don't age, but everything around me does. My truck is falling apart. I'm falling apart. But I can't die. Can't leave. Can't do anything but drive. The thread ended abruptly in 2024. February. The same month I'd made my run. I sat back in the library chair, stared at the screen. Other people had experienced this. Other people knew. But no one believed them, or if they did, they didn't talk about it. Didn't warn new drivers, didn't shut down the road permanently. The ice road had operated for another 7 years after I disappeared. 7 years of drivers going missing. 7 years of the fold consuming people. Why? I searched for more information, found references to geological surveys. The area around Great Slave Lake had unusual magnetic properties. Deposits of rare earth minerals. Deep underwater crevasses. Anomalous readings that couldn't be fully explained. Some geologists theorized that the area was a thin place, a location where the fabric of reality was unstable, where dimensional boundaries were permeable, where things could slip through from one state to another. Most scientists dismiss this as pseudoscience, but the disappearances were real. The phenomena were real. Something was happening at kilometer 28. Something that couldn't be explained by conventional physics. I closed the browser, left the library, walked back to the motel, sat on the bed again. I should have felt something. Relief that I'd escaped. Grief for the drivers who hadn't. Anger at the authorities for not stopping it. But I felt nothing. Just empty. Hollowed out. That night, I dreamed. The first dream I'd had since escaping the fold. I was back on the ice, driving north, following the tracks. They led me to kilometer 28, where they disappeared. I kept driving, into the white void, into the endless nothing. But this time I wasn't alone. All the other trucks were there. all the other versions of me. We drove in formation, a convoy of identical western stars, all heading nowhere. Then we reached the building, the empty mine. We all stopped, all climbed out, all walked inside. The map was still on the wall, but it had changed. Kilometer 28 wasn't marked anymore. Now there were dozens of marks, hundreds. Every point where the fold had reached out, where reality had cracked, where drivers had slipped through, the marks formed a pattern, a spiral, starting at kilometer 28, expanding outward, covering the entire lake, extending beyond, reaching toward land, toward cities, toward the staging area. The fold was growing, consuming more space, more time, more reality. Eventually, it would consume everything, everyone. The entire world would become the white void, the endless nothing, the place where direction had no meaning and time moved wrong. I woke up, gasping, sweating despite the cold room. The clock showed 3:47 a.m. I got up, dressed, walked outside. The street was empty, dark, silent. I walked to the nearest bus stop, sat on the bench, waited for morning. When the sun came up, I bought a bus ticket, back north, back to Yellowknife, back to the ice road. Because I had to know, had to see, had to confirm whether the dream was just a dream or something more. The bus ride took 4 days. Yellowknife looked different than I remembered, more developed, more permanent. The staging area was gone, replaced by a construction site. They were building something, an office complex looked like. I walked to where the ice road used to start. There was a fence now, a sign, unsafe ice, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted. But I could see beyond the fence, see the lake, see the ice. It was early February. The ice should be solid, thick, safe. But it wasn't. Even from shore I could see it. Cracks, everywhere. Spider webbing across the surface. The ice was fracturing, breaking down, becoming unstable. In the center of the lake, maybe 2 kilometers from shore, there was darkness. Not shadow, not water. Something else. A void, growing, spreading, consuming the ice around it. The fold it had breached, escaped from whatever containment had held it before. Now it was expanding, visible, real. I watched as a section of ice near the void simply vanished, didn't break, didn't sink, just ceased to exist. One moment there, the next moment gone, replaced by white nothing. A man approached, security guard for the construction site. Middle-aged, tired eyes. "You need to leave," he said. "This area is off limits." "What is that?" I pointed at the void. He looked, didn't seem surprised, like he saw it every day. "Don't know. Showed up about 6 months ago. Keep getting bigger. Scientists are studying it. Say it's some kind of atmospheric phenomenon. But between you and me, I think it's something worse." "How much bigger is it getting?" "Started as maybe 10 meters across. Now it's 2 kilometers, growing about 3 meters a day. At this rate, it'll reach shore in another month. What happens then?" He shrugged, above my pay grade. "But I've been told to evacuate with my family when it gets within 100 meters of land. So that should tell you something." He walked away, left me standing at the fence, staring at the void, at the fold, at the thing that had consumed me and countless other drivers, now consuming geography itself. I thought about warning people, calling news stations, making noise, but who would believe me? A truck driver with a crazy story about disappearing into a white void and emerging 23 years later? They'd think I was insane, drunk, attention-seeking. Besides, the authorities knew. The scientists knew. They were studying it, documenting it, probably trying to figure out how to stop it, or at least slow it down. But I knew the truth. The fold couldn't be stopped, couldn't be contained. It existed outside the rules, outside physics, outside reality itself. It would keep growing until there was nothing left, until everything was white void, until direction lost meaning everywhere, not just on the ice road. I walked back to the bus station, bought a ticket south, left Yellowknife, left the fold, left the ice road behind. But I knew it didn't matter. The fold would spread, would reach the cities eventually, would consume everything. And when it did, everyone would understand. Everyone would experience what I experienced. The endless white, the lost time, the trapped existence. We'd all be drivers on the ice road then, all lost past kilometer 28, all searching for an exit that didn't exist. On the bus ride south, I looked at my hands. Still the same. 51 years old, looked 51. But inside I was 74, or would be if you counted the 23 years in the fold. Time had split for me, objective time and subjective time, outside time and inside time, and they'd never line up again. I thought about the other drivers, the ones still trapped, still driving their routes, still searching for the mine that didn't exist, still aging their trucks while remaining ageless themselves. Were they aware? Did they know they were trapped? Or had they forgotten? Had the fold erased their memories? Made them think the driving was normal? That the white void was just weather? That they'd reach their destination eventually? Maybe that was the mercy of it. Forgetting, not knowing, just driving forever. In the eternal present where past and future had no meaning. But I remembered, and that was the curse. The bus stopped in Fort Nelson. I got off, walked to a diner, ordered coffee, sat in a booth by the window. A truck driver sat in the next booth. Old guy, maybe 65. We made eye contact. He nodded. I nodded back. The solidarity of drivers, the unspoken understanding. "Where you headed?" he asked. "South. You?" "North. Got a run to Yellowknife, last one of the season." My chest tightened. "The ice road is closed." "Not the ice road. Regular highway. But I'll be passing through the staging area, or what used to be the staging area." He paused. "You ever run ice roads?" "Long time ago. Heard they used to disappear. The drivers just vanish out on the ice." "Yeah, I heard that too. You believe it?" I looked at him, at his weathered face, at the confidence in his eyes, the certainty that he understood how the world worked, that roads went places, that destinations existed, that reality followed rules. "Yeah," I said, "I believe it." He nodded slowly. "Strange world. Strange things happen. Especially in the north. Especially in winter. You should be careful. Yellowknife isn't safe anymore." "What do you mean?" "The fold is spreading, growing. It'll reach land soon, maybe sooner than anyone expects." He looked at me with concern. "You okay, buddy? You look like you've been through something." "I have, and I'm telling you, don't go to Yellowknife. Don't go anywhere near Great Slave Lake. Just turn around. Go home." He stood up, put money on the table. "Thanks for the advice, but I've got a job to do. Crate doesn't move itself." He walked out. I watched through the window as he climbed into his truck. A Kenworth, newer model. He pulled out of the parking lot and headed north. I should have stopped him, should have explained better, should have made him understand. But I didn't, because I knew he wouldn't listen. Drivers never do. We have jobs to complete, destinations to reach. The road calls and we answer, even when the road leads nowhere, even when the destination doesn't exist, even when answering means disappearing into a white void that grows larger every day. I finished my coffee, paid, walked out of the diner, started walking south. No destination, no plan, just movement, just the need to be somewhere other than here. Behind me, to the north, I could feel it. The fold, growing, spreading, reaching, patient, inevitable. It would catch me eventually, catch everyone, turn the whole world into kilometer 28, into the place beyond, into the white void where direction has no meaning. But until then, I'd keep walking, keep moving, keep trying to stay ahead of it. Because that's what drivers do. We keep moving, even when there's nowhere to go, even when the road has ended, even when we know it's futile, we just keep moving. 3 months later, the fold reached Yellowknife. I saw it on the news in a motel in Montana. The footage showed the void consuming buildings, streets, cars, people, not destroying them, not killing them, just erasing them, making them disappear into white nothing. Evacuations had been ordered. Most people got out, but not everyone. Some refused to leave, some couldn't leave. Some didn't believe it was real until it was too late. The news reporters called it a spatial anomaly. Scientists called it a dimensional intrusion. The government called it an ongoing crisis situation. But they were all dancing around the truth. None of them wanted to say what it really was. A hole in reality, growing, consuming, spreading the fold. I watched as the news helicopter footage showed the edge of the void. It looked like fog but denser, more solid. Trucks and buildings half swallowed by it. People running. The whiteness advancing slowly but steadily. Maybe 5 meters per hour now. At that rate, it would consume the entire territory within a year. Maybe less. I turned off the TV, lay on the motel bed, stared at the ceiling, thought about going back, walking into the fold, rejoining the other drivers, the other versions of me, all trapped, all driving, all lost. But I didn't. I stayed in Montana. Got a job at a truck stop, pumping diesel, selling coffee, making small talk with drivers passing through. Normal life. Normal work. Normal reality. While 600 miles north, reality was ending. The fold grew faster after Yellowknife. Some barrier had broken, some containment had failed. Within 6 months it had consumed Fort Resolution, Fort Providence, Hay River, all the small communities around Great Slave Lake, all gone, all replaced by white void. The Canadian government tried to stop it. They built barriers, evacuated regions, established exclusion zones, but nothing worked. The fold didn't respond to physical barriers, didn't respect boundaries, just kept growing. They sent in research teams, scientists, military. None returned, just walked into the white and disappeared. Their equipment stopped transmitting. Their vital signs flatlined, or rather stopped registering at all, like they'd ceased to exist. The government stopped sending people in after that, just monitored from a distance, watched the void grow, documented the end of the world in real time. Other voids appeared, in Siberia, in Antarctica, in northern Alaska, all growing, all expanding, all the same white nothing. The fold wasn't limited to Great Slave Lake. It had manifested in multiple locations, all in extreme northern latitudes, all in places where ice roads had once operated. The scientists finally started to understand. The ice roads had done something, created something. The combination of weight and movement and cold had weakened reality, created fissures, tears in the fabric of space-time, and the fold had leaked through. A year after Yellowknife, the fold reached Edmonton. 3 million people evacuated south. Most made it. Some didn't. The highways jammed, people panicked, accidents happened. The fold consumed the stragglers. I watched it on TV, the same footage repeated endlessly, the white void creeping through suburban neighborhoods, shopping malls, office towers, all vanishing, all erased. Survivors described what it was like inside the fold, those who'd entered and somehow found their way back out. They all told the same story. White, endless white. No direction, no time, no way to navigate. They'd wandered, hours, days, some said years, then suddenly found themselves back in reality, but changed, aged, or not aged. Time had moved differently for each person. One woman had been inside for what felt like 10 minutes, emerged to find 6 months had passed. Another man was inside for what felt like 5 years, emerged to find only 2 hours had gone by. The fold didn't follow any consistent rules, didn't have any predictable pattern. It was chaos given physical form. I thought about Tommy, about Maria, about all the other drivers who disappeared into the fold back in 2024. Were they still there, still driving, still searching for destinations that no longer existed? Or had they found exits? Had they emerged somewhere, somewhen, into a reality that had moved on without them? I'd never know. No one would. The fold kept its secrets. 2 years after Yellowknife, the fold reached Calgary, then Medicine Hat, then Lethbridge. It was moving faster now. No longer 3 meters per hour, more like 30, 300. The growth was exponential. Scientists theorized that each void was connected, that the fold was actually one massive discontinuity in space-time, that when you entered it in Yellowknife, you might exit in Siberia, or Antarctica, or nowhere at all. They theorized that the fold might be alive, or intelligent, or both, that it was actively consuming reality, feeding on it, growing stronger with each piece of the world it absorbed. But theories didn't matter. Nothing could stop it. Nothing could even slow it. The fold was inevitable, unstoppable, the end of geography itself. I quit my job at the truck stop, started driving south, bought an old pickup truck, not a semi, just a regular truck, and headed toward Mexico, trying to stay ahead of the void, trying to buy time. Even though I knew time didn't work the same way anymore, refugees clogged the roads, millions of them, fleeing south, away from the white, away from the nothing. Cars broke down. People ran out of gas, ran out of food, ran out of hope. The highways became parking lots of abandoned vehicles and desperate people. I helped where I could, shared gas, shared food, gave rides to people whose cars had died. But there were too many, too much need. I couldn't save everyone. Couldn't save anyone, really. Just delay the inevitable. 3 years after Yellowknife, the fold reached the Montana border. I was in Nevada by then, still driving, still moving, still trying to stay ahead, but I could feel it. Behind me, getting closer, like a presence, like awareness, like it knew I'd escaped once and wasn't going to let me escape again. I started dreaming about the ice road again. Every night, the same dream, driving north, following the tracks. They disappear at kilometer 28. I keep driving, into the white, into the nothing, into the fold. But now the dream continued past where it used to end. Now I drove for hours, Days, years, through the white void, never stopping, never arriving, just driving, forever. And all around me other trucks, thousands of them, millions, all driving, all lost, all trapped. The entire world's worth of drivers, all consumed by the fold, all searching for destinations that didn't exist anymore. I woke up screaming every night, the same scream, the same terror, the same realization that the dream was becoming real. That soon there would be no difference between sleeping and waking, between dream and reality, because the fold was erasing the distinction. 4 years after Yellowknife, the fold reached California, then Arizona, then New Mexico. The United States government collapsed. Canada had collapsed a year earlier. The infrastructure couldn't handle millions of refugees. The economy couldn't function when entire regions were erased. Society fell apart. People formed convoys, traveled together for safety, for sanity, for the illusion that collective movement meant something, that we were going somewhere instead of just fleeing, just running, just postponing the inevitable. I joined one of these convoys, maybe 50 vehicles, heading south through Mexico. The plan was to reach South America, get below the equator. The fold hadn't manifested there yet. Maybe it couldn't. Maybe the extreme cold was necessary. Maybe we'd be safe. But I knew we wouldn't. I'd seen the pattern in the fold, the spiral. It started in the north, but it was expanding in all directions. Eventually, it would consume everything. The entire planet, the entire world would become white void, would become the ice road, would become kilometer 28. We drove through Mexico. The highways were chaos. Military checkpoints, bandits, desperate people. The Mexican government was trying to maintain order, but failing. They couldn't stop millions of refugees, couldn't feed them, couldn't shelter them, could only watch as the wave of humanity crashed through their country. We reached Guatemala, then Honduras, then Costa Rica. The fold was maybe 300 miles behind us now, close enough that we could see it on the horizon, a wall of white stretching from ground to sky, advancing steadily. People started abandoning their vehicles. The highways were too clogged. They walked instead, carried whatever they could, children, supplies, memories, leaving everything else behind. I left my truck in Nicaragua, walked with the crowd. We were maybe 1,000 strong now, all heading south, all fleeing the white. But the white was faster. It caught up to us in Panama. We watched it approach, stood at the edge of the canal, watched the void consume the northern shore, then begin crossing the water, not floating, not sinking, just advancing, erasing the water, erasing the land, erasing everything. People panicked, ran, but there was nowhere to go. The fold was ahead, behind, east, west. We were surrounded. I stopped running, just stood there, watching it approach. The white wall, the nothing, the end. Others stopped too. We stood together, a group of maybe 50, just waiting, accepting, understanding that the flight was over, that there was no more south, no more anywhere, just here, just now, just the fold. The white reached us, touched us, consumed us, and then I was back on the ice. Driving, my Western Star, white cab, red chassis, the engine running smooth, no wear, no age, everything as it was 23 years ago, or yesterday, or never. Time had no meaning here. I looked around, other trucks, thousands of them, stretching in all directions, all driving, all moving, but going nowhere, because there was nowhere to go. The fold had consumed everything. The entire world was the ice road now. The entire world was kilometer 28. I saw Tommy, driving his old Freightliner. He looked the same as he did that morning in Yellowknife. Before the fold. Before everything. I saw Maria, driving her Peterbilt. Young, alive, trapped. I saw all of them, all the drivers who'd disappeared, all still driving. Still searching. Still lost. And I saw the others, the refugees, the millions who'd fled south. They were in vehicles now. Cars, buses, trucks, all driving. All part of the convoy. All consumed by the fold. We drove together, a massive convoy, spanning continents, spanning reality itself. All of us moving. All of us going nowhere. The landscape was white, featureless. But sometimes I'd see things. Shadows of buildings, ghosts of cities, memories of places that used to exist. They'd appear for a moment, then vanish, swallowed by the white. I drove for what felt like days, weeks, years. No way to measure, no way to know. The fuel gauge never moved. The odometer never changed. The clock was stopped. Everything was frozen except the movement. The endless, pointless movement. Then I saw it. Ahead, a sign, mile marker 28. The original marker, from the ice road, from Great Slave Lake, from where this all started. I stopped at the marker, got out. Other trucks stopped too, other drivers got out. We gathered around the sign, hundreds of us, then thousands, then millions. Everyone the fold had consumed. All here, all together. All staring at the marker that had started everything. The marker had words on it now, scratched into the metal, same as before, but different words. End of road. Below that, beginning of nothing. Below that, welcome home. I touched the marker. The metal was cold. So cold it burned. But I kept my hand there because it was real, or as real as anything could be in this place. Tommy spoke. First words I'd heard in however long. What do we do now? No one answered, because there was no answer. There was nothing to do, nowhere to go. The fold was everything now. We were part of it, permanently, eternally. We drive, I said, finally. That's what we do. We drive. To where? Doesn't matter. We just drive. And so we did. Climbed back into our trucks, started the engines, pulled back onto the non-road and drove into the white, into the nothing, into forever. Because that's what drivers do. We drive. Even when there's no destination. Even when the road has ended. Even when reality itself has ceased to exist. We just drive. And as I drove, I realized something. The fold hadn't ended the world. It had transformed it. Made it into what it always was underneath. What the ice roads had revealed. What kilometer 28 had tried to warn us about. The world was always the fold. Reality was always the white void. Direction never had meaning. Destinations never existed. We just didn't see it. Didn't understand. The ice roads made it visible, made it obvious, made it impossible to ignore. We were always driving toward nothing. Always had been. Always would be. The fold just made it honest. I looked in my rearview mirror, saw the convoy behind me. Millions of trucks, millions of drivers, all following, all driving, all lost, all found. And I realized I wasn't alone anymore. None of us were. The fold had taken everything, but it had given us this, each other, the eternal convoy, the endless drive, the truth of movement without destination. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all there ever was. I drove on, into the white, into the forever, into the fold that was now everything. And somewhere ahead, or behind, or nowhere, or everywhere, kilometer 28 waited. The marker that shouldn't exist. The warning that went unheeded. The beginning of the end. The end of the beginning. I would reach it eventually. We all would. We'd drive past it, over and over, forever. Because in the fold, all points were the same point. All times were the same time. All drives were the same drive. The ice road that ended under the snow had become the only road. The last road. The eternal road. And we would drive it. Forever. Because that's what we were now. Not people. Not drivers. Just movement. Just the act of driving itself. Stripped of context. Stripped of meaning. Stripped of everything except the pure, simple, honest act of moving forward into nothing. The truck groaned under me. The ice groaned under the truck. The fold groaned under the ice. Everything groaning. Everything straining. Everything holding together just barely. Just enough. I pressed the accelerator, picked up speed, not to reach anything, not to escape anything, just to move, just to drive, just to be what I'd always been. A driver, on a road that ended under the snow, now driving forever in the white void where the road used to be. My hands on the wheel, my eyes on the nothing ahead, my foot on the pedal. Driving. Always driving, until there was nothing left but the drive itself. And even then, especially then, still driving, because the ice road never really ended. It just transformed, became what it always was, what it always would be. The white void, the nothing, the fold, the place where all roads lead, where all drivers end up, where all destinations converge into a single, endless, meaningless point. Kilometer 28, where the tracks disappear, where reality ends, where we begin. I saw the marker ahead again, approached it, passed it, left it behind, then saw it ahead again. The loop was complete. The spiral was eternal. The fold was infinite, and I was part of it now, forever, as were we all. Every driver who'd ever driven, every person who'd ever moved. All of us in the convoy, all of us in the white, all of us in the fold. Sometimes I wondered if we were actually moving at all, if the trucks were really running, or if we were frozen in place and the white was moving around us, creating the illusion of progress, the illusion of journey, the illusion of anything happening at all. I looked at the speedometer. It showed 70 kilometers per hour. But the white outside never changed, never varied. No landmarks to measure against. No reference points to confirm movement. Just the sensation of the engine running. The vibration of the truck. The sound of tires on ice that might not exist. Tommy's truck appeared beside me, driving parallel. He looked over, made eye contact. His expression was blank, empty, like he'd forgotten who he was, what he was doing here, why he was driving. I understood. I could feel it happening to me too. The slow erosion of identity, of purpose, of selfhood. The white was stripping it away, layer by layer, until there would be nothing left but the act of driving. No driver, just driving. Maria's truck appeared on my other side. She didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead, into the white, her hands on the wheel, her foot on the pedal. Mechanical, automatic, already gone in all the ways that mattered. The convoy had formed a pattern now. We drove in formation, rows and columns, perfectly spaced, like we were following some invisible grid, some structure that existed in the fold, even though nothing else did. I counted the trucks visible from my position. 50, 100. More appearing constantly, fading into the white behind, emerging from the white ahead. The same trucks cycling through, or different trucks. No way to tell. No way to know. I tried the radio again. Had tried it 1,000 times, 1,000,000. It had never worked. But I tried anyway. Because what else was there? This time, it crackled. I grabbed the mic, keyed it. "This is Carl Dietrich. Anyone on this frequency, respond." Static, then a voice, my voice, but not mine. Coming from outside the truck, from everywhere, from nowhere. "You're still trying to communicate, Carl. Still trying to reach someone. Still trying to believe you're not alone." I looked around. Saw no one. Just the other trucks. Silent, moving. "Who is this?" "You know who this is. You've always known. The fold. If you need a name, if names still mean anything to you." "What do you want?" "Want? I don't want. I don't need. I just am. And now you are too. Part of me. Part of this, part of the everything that became nothing." I set the mic down. Didn't want to hear more, didn't want to engage with it, with the intelligence, if that's what it was, that lived in the white. But the voice continued anyway. Not through the radio now, just in my head, or maybe in the air itself. The fold speaking directly to consciousness, bypassing the need for sound. "You think you're trapped. You think this is punishment, prison, hell, but it's not. It's liberation. Freedom from the tyranny of destination, from the lie of progress, from the illusion that movement means anything. This isn't liberation. This is erasure. Same thing. You just haven't accepted it yet. But you will, eventually, when enough time passes, when enough of you dissolves into the white, when you forget what it was like to be Carl Dietrich and become just another part of the fold, just another driver on the endless road." The voice faded, left me alone with my thoughts, with the sound of the engine, with the endless white. I tried to remember things, specific things. My wife's name. I'd been married once, long time ago, before the ice roads, before everything. What was her name? I couldn't remember. The knowledge was gone, erased, consumed by the fold. I tried to remember my childhood, growing up somewhere warm, somewhere with trees, with grass, with color. What was it called? Where was it? Gone. All gone, just white. Just the truck, just the driving. How long had I been here? 23 years, I thought. But that didn't feel right. Felt like longer. Felt like forever. Felt like I'd always been here. Had never been anywhere else. Would never be anywhere else. The truck in front of me stopped. Suddenly. Without warning. I hit the brakes. My truck slid on the ice. Almost hit the stopped vehicle. Stopped inches from its bumper. I waited, engine idling, expecting the truck to move, to continue, to resume the eternal convoy. It didn't move. I climbed out, walked to the driver's door, looked up at the window. It was frosted over, completely. No visibility into the cab. I climbed up on the step, tried the door, locked. I knocked on the window 3 times. No response. I wiped the frost away with my glove, looked inside. The cab was full of snow, completely full, packed solid, snow filling every space from floor to ceiling, pressed against the windows from inside, like the truck had been buried, consumed, filled with the white, but the engine was still running. I could hear it. Feel the vibration. The truck was alive, but its interior was dead. Frozen. filled. I climbed down, walked back to my truck, got in, pulled around the stopped vehicle, continued forward. Other trucks were stopped now, scattered across the white, some with their doors open, some with snow pouring out, some completely buried, just shapes in the white, becoming part of the landscape, part of the fold itself. The convoy was collapsing, dissolving, truck by truck, driver by driver. We were being absorbed, integrated, made one with the white. I drove faster, trying to outrun it, trying to stay ahead of whatever was happening. But I knew it was futile, knew that stopping was just the final stage, that eventually my truck would stop too, would fill with snow, would become another frozen monument to movement that had ceased to mean anything. Tommy's truck was stopped ahead. I pulled up beside it, looked over. The cab was empty, door open, snow drifting in. No sign of Tommy. He was gone, dissolved, returned to the white. Maria's truck was still moving. I fell in beside her. We drove parallel for a while. Then her truck began to slow, to drift. The tires leaving the invisible road, moving off into open white. I watched as her truck turned, began driving perpendicular to the convoy, away from everyone, into isolation, into the deepest part of the fold. Her brake lights never came on. She just drove off, disappeared, became a faint shadow in the white. Then nothing. I was alone now, the only truck still moving, the only driver still conscious, still aware, still fighting the dissolution. But I was tired, so tired. The exhaustion was absolute, bone deep, soul deep. The kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix, because it wasn't physical, it was existential, the tiredness of being, of continuing, of refusing to stop when stopping was the only logical choice. My hands felt numb on the wheel, not from cold, from something else. From detachment, like they weren't my hands anymore, like they belonged to someone else, something else. The truck, the fold, the act of driving itself. I looked in the rearview mirror, saw my face. Except it wasn't my face, wasn't anyone's face, just features, arranged into something face-like, but empty, hollow, a mask worn by the white. I looked away, focused on the road ahead, except there was no road, just white, just the tire tracks my own truck was making, following myself, chasing myself, an Ouroboros of movement consuming its own tail. The GPS screen flickered, came on, showed my position. Kilometer 28. Always kilometer 28. Would always be kilometer 28. The marker was everywhere now. Every point in the fold was kilometer 28. Every point was the beginning, the end, the warning, the truth. I passed another stopped truck, then another, then 20, then 100. The entire convoy had stopped now. All the trucks frozen in place, all the drivers gone, all the movement ceased. Except mine, I was still moving, still driving, the last one, the only one, the final driver on the final road at the end of everything. Why was I still going? What was I trying to prove? That I was stronger than the others? That I could resist longer? That I mattered somehow? None of that was true. I wasn't stronger, wasn't special, wasn't anything. I was just stubborn or stupid, or too afraid to stop because stopping meant admitting it was over, that the journey had no purpose, that the driving was meaningless. But it was meaningless, had always been meaningless. The fold had just made it obvious, made it impossible to pretend otherwise. I took my foot off the accelerator. Let the truck coast, slowing, gradually. The engine still running, but the momentum fading, the movement dying. The truck rolled to a stop. I sat there, engine idling, hands on the wheel, staring into the white. This was it. This was the end. Not dramatic, not violent, just quiet, just stopping, just the cessation of movement in a place where movement had never meant anything. I waited for the snow to start filling the cab, for the white to consume me like it had consumed the others, for the fold to finish what it had started. But nothing happened. The cab stayed clear. The air stayed breathable. I remained conscious, aware, trapped in this moment of stopping, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Just here, just now, just forever. Maybe this was the real punishment. Not dissolution, not erasure, but this, awareness without action, consciousness without purpose, existence without existence, being forced to stay aware while everything around you became nothing. I heard something outside, footsteps, crunching in the snow that might not be snow, on the ice that might not be ice, approaching the truck. I didn't look, didn't want to see, knew that whatever was out there, it wasn't something I wanted to witness. The footsteps circled the truck, slow, deliberate, patient, then stopped at the driver's door. A knock, 3 times, the same pattern, the same rhythm I'd heard on the ice road, on the real ice road, before the fold, before everything. I didn't answer. Another knock, more insistent, more demanding. I kept staring forward, into the white, into the nothing, into the forever. The door opened. I hadn't unlocked it, hadn't touched it. But it opened anyway, because locks didn't mean anything here, barriers didn't mean anything here. Nothing meant anything here. Cold rushed in, colder than before, colder than anything. The cold of absolute zero, of entropy, of heat, death. The cold at the end of the universe, at the end of all universes. A figure stood in the doorway. I could see it in my peripheral vision. Didn't want to look directly, didn't want to confirm what it was, but I knew, had always known. Since the tracks first disappeared at kilometer 28, since I first entered the fold, since I first understood what this place was. The figure was me, another me, but not the duplicate from before. This was different. This was what I was becoming, what I would be, what I already was in some parallel version of time that existed simultaneously with now. It was made of white, solid white, human-shaped but not human. A sculpture of void given form. A hole in reality wearing my face, my body, my identity. It reached toward me. The hand was white, featureless, cold beyond cold. "Stop fighting," it said. My voice, but not my voice. Words formed from silence, meaning created from nothing. "I'm not fighting," I stopped. "No. You're still here, still aware, still Carl Dietrich. That's fighting. That's resistance. That's refusing to accept what you've become. What have I become? Nothing. Everything. Part of the fold. Part of the white. Part of the eternal now that has no past and no future. Only present. Only this. Only here." The white hand touched my shoulder. The cold sank through my coat, through my skin, through my bones, through whatever remained of my core, myself, my soul. I felt it dissolving, not painfully, just fading, like fog burning off in sunlight. Except there was no sunlight here. Would never be sunlight here. Just the white, just the cold. just the inevitable dissolution of everything that made me distinct, separate, individual. I tried to speak, to protest, to assert my existence, but no words came, no sound, just silence, just the white filling my mouth, my throat, my lungs. I was dissolving, finally, completely, becoming what I'd been resisting, what all the other drivers had become, what everything in the fold eventually became: white, pure white, undifferentiated, without form, without identity, without anything that could be called self. My last thought, if it could be called a thought, was relief. Relief that the struggle was over, that the fighting was done, that the pretense of being someone, of going somewhere, of meaning something, had finally been abandoned. I let go, released my grip on the wheel, on consciousness, on Carl Dietrich, on the lie that I had ever been anything other than this. Movement without destination, journey without arrival, driving without driver. The white consumed me, became me, made me into what I always was, what everything always was. Underneath the illusion of form, underneath the pretense of identity, underneath the lie of existence itself. And somewhere, everywhere, nowhere, the ice road continued. Not the real ice road. That was gone, had been gone, would always be gone. But the idea of it, the essence of it, the truth of it, a road that ended under the snow, that never began, that never ended, that just was, forever, eternally, in the white void where all roads led, where all journeys concluded, where all destinations revealed themselves as mirages, as lies, as comfortable fictions we told ourselves to justify the movement, to explain the driving, to give meaning to the meaningless. But there was no meaning, there never had been, there never would be. Just the white, just the fold, just the eternal present where nothing happened, and everything happened, and it didn't matter which, because happening and not happening were the same thing. I was the white now, was the fold, was the ice road that ended under the snow, was kilometer 28, was the warning, was the truth, was everything and nothing simultaneously. And I drove, still drove, would always drive, not in a truck, not on ice, not anywhere physical, but drove nonetheless, because driving was all that remained, the only constant, the only truth in a world where truth had become as meaningless as everything else. And other drivers would come, were coming, had always been coming, would always come, following the tracks that disappeared, ignoring the warnings, pushing past kilometer 28, entering the fold, becoming white, becoming nothing, becoming everything, becoming me, becoming us, becoming the collective dissolution of all movement into the eternal stillness that only looked like movement because we couldn't accept stillness, couldn't accept ending, couldn't accept that the road had always ended, that the destination had never existed, that the journey itself was the joke and we were the punchline. But jokes need audiences, and there were no audiences here. No one to laugh, no one to understand, no one to witness the cosmic humor of it all. Just drivers driving, white consuming, the fold expanding, forever. And somewhere in that forever, in that endless now, a marker stood. Kilometer 28. The point where the tracks disappeared, where reality ended, where the ice road revealed itself as what it always was. Not a road at all, just a line scratched across nothing, a path drawn through void, a direction given to directionless, a destination promised to the destinationless, and we followed it. All of us, every driver, every person, everything that ever moved or thought it moved. We followed it here, to the end that was also the beginning, to the nothing that was also everything, to the truth that killed us by showing us we'd never been alive at all, just movement, just motion, just the eternal, meaningless, perfect act of driving into white. And I was part of it now, forever, as were we all. The ice road that ended under the snow, where the tracks disappear, where we disappear, where everything disappears, into white, into nothing, into the fold that folds forever, creating and destroying and doing neither, because creation and destruction require separation, and there is no separation here. No distinction, no difference, no anything. Just this, just white, just now, just always. And I drive it still, and I always will, and so will you. When your tracks disappear, when your road ends, when you reach your kilometer 28, we'll all be here, waiting, driving, being nothing together in the white void, where nothing means everything, and everything means nothing, and meaning itself is just another comfortable lie we told ourselves when we still remembered what lies were.